Chapter 316. Today was the third time Ling Shiqi had held a banquet at the Drunken Fragrance Inn. After 2 days of fermenting, almost everyone knew about this matter. The Wang and Lu family heads had died one after another. If it was only one, everyone would still think it was a coincidence. But both family heads had died. This could not be a coincidence. Hearing that the new Dark Thunder Guard supervisor was going to hold a banquet today, many people rushed over with their own thoughts. At this time, there were many people gathered around the Drunken Fragrance Inn to watch the show. They were all waiting to see if anyone from the 9 great families would come today. Of course, the spies of the various families were also mixed in. It was almost noon. A withered old man accompanied by 2 spirit cultivators of the spirit transformation realm walked into the Drunken Fragrance Inn. Seeing this scene, everyone began to mutter. Who is that old man? He looks unfamiliar. Is he from the 9 great families? I recognize him. He is an old man from the previous generation of the Wang family. He should be about 100 years old now. Tsk, he is so old and he still has to worry about the Wang family. So, that means that the Wang clan is here. This can be considered a start. I wonder how many clans will come today. 2 family heads have died in 2 days. If the rest don't want to die, they have to come. That may not be so. The Du and Jiang families may not come. At this time, Zhong Qing appeared with a group of guards. The Lu family people followed closely behind. 3 of the 9 great families had already come. This news quickly spread out, and those families who were still hesitating immediately brought their people over, no longer caring about the Du family and the Jiang family. At this time, Jiang Hao and Du Hachang were playing chess. However, when they found out that other than their 2 families, the other 7 families had all gone to the Drunken Fragrance Inn, Du Hachang smashed the chessboard on the spot. Traitors? A group of traitors. A group of idiots. Jiang Hao's face was also very ugly. The other 7 families had all gone. This meant that they were completely separated from them. In this way they could be defeated one by one. He said, Brother Du, let's think about what we should do. If the Ling Shiqi draws those 7 families to their side, our situation will be very bad. Let me think. On the other side, in a private room of the Drunken Fragrance Pavilion, Qiu Cheng was smiling as he accompanied the 7 patriarchs. However, the expressions of the 7 people were not as relaxed. The patriarchs of the Wang clan and the Lu clan had both died an unnatural death. In their opinion, they should have died at the hands of this supervisor before them. How could they possibly smile at him? Zhong Qing was scared. As for the others, they were also scared. They were all afraid that they would follow in Wang Qing's footsteps. More importantly, they were here but Ling Shiqi was not. After waiting for a while, the Du family and the Jiang family still didn't come. This was expected by the patriarchs, but Ling Shiqi still didn't show up. However, the family heads didn't ask much and continued to wait patiently. Because they knew that they had stood Ling Shiqi up twice before. Now that the situation had reversed, it was normal for the other party to put on airs. In fact, Ling Shiqi really wasn't at the Drunken Fragrance Pavilion. At this time he was standing at the door of the Jiang residence. Not only him but Qiao Qian and Pang Yuan were also standing beside him. Behind him were 80 Dark Thunder Guards. As for the 2 guards in front of the Jiang residence, they were already beheaded. Ling Shiqi called out a person's name, Wei Guan. Wei Guan was the only person who wasn't a Dark Thunder Guard but came with him. Wei Guan bowed and said, Sir, subordinate is here. Kick the door open. Wei Guan trembled with excitement. He took a deep breath and said, Subordinate obeys. He walked to the gilded door of the Jiang residence and recalled the scene of him being kicked away by Jiang Xian a few days ago. He focused all his spiritual power on his leg, and then he suddenly kicked out and sent half the door flying. Such a big commotion immediately attracted many people from the Jiang residence. Jiang Xian and a few of the Jiang residence's higher-ups walked over together. When they saw a group of Dark Thunder Guards standing in front of the door with a murderous aura, their hearts suddenly thumped. Jiang Xian saw that it was Wei Guan who kicked open the door of their residence and immediately became furious. He was about to rush up and teach him a lesson when he was pulled back by someone beside him. Third uncle, don't stop me. If I don't kill this servant today, my surname is not Jiang. The one who pulled him back was Jiang Hao's younger brother, Jiang Wei. He was also one of the higher-ups of the Jiang residence and had the cultivation of the middle stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. Nonsense. Jiang Wei shouted and pushed him to the back. He immediately ordered the person beside him to go out the back door to inform Jiang Hao. He walked to the door with a smile and cupped his hands. This one is Jiang Wei. This one must be the supervisor of the Dark Thunder residence, Lord Lu. It's an honor to meet you. Jiang Wei lowered his attitude to the lowest. After all, their family head Jiang Hao was not in the residence and the Dark Thunder guards were obviously coming. What he needed to do was to delay until Jiang Hao returned. But Leng Shiqi's attitude was unusually tough. Who do you think you are? Let Jiang Hao talk to me. Jiang Wei's face instantly turned red. He suppressed the anger in his heart. The family head is in seclusion. It is the same if Lord Lu has something to say to me. Leng Shiqi said coldly, is that so? I suspect that your Jiang residence is harboring spies. I have come to investigate. Harboring spies. Jiang Wei was slightly taken aback. He immediately understood that Leng Shiqi was accusing them. He said, Lord Lu, our Jiang residence does not dare to accept such a serious accusation. The Jiang residence has always been law-abiding. How can we be harboring spies? If I say you are harboring spies, then you are harboring spies. Dark Thunder Guards, listen up. The Jiang residents colluded with the enemy country and betrayed the country for glory. This crime is not punishable by death. Kill without mercy. Jiang Wei's expression finally changed. He shouted, Lu Xingji, you are slandering us. What right do you have to attack us without any evidence? Unexpectedly, Leng Shiqi waved his hand. Behind him, Qiao Qian, Pang Yuan, and all the Dark Thunder Guards swarmed forward and killed their way into the Jiang residence. Leng Shiqi then pointed out a finger, condensing extremely compressed blood radiance and lightning radiance between his fingers. Immediately, a blood-colored finger shot out like a clap of thunder. A thick bloody aura spread in all directions and the lightning was violent. It headed straight for Jiang Wei's heart. Jiang Wei did not think that Leng Shiqi would dare to attack them in broad daylight. In a hurry he pulled out a spirit sword. His sword style was quite profound and looked extraordinary. However, before it could fully form, it was shattered by the thunder-like bloody finger and directly pierced through his chest. This was the thunder blood finger that Leng Shiqi had fused with the level 3 spiritual technique, the thunder finger, that Wu Xiang had given him during his half a month of seclusion. This was the first time that Leng Shiqi had fused a level 3 spiritual technique with a level 4 spiritual technique. This finger combined the extremely strong penetrating power of the blood finger and the explosive power of the thunder finger. With the two combined, the power of the thunder blood finger was second only to the dazzling flurry of flowers and the ephemeral bloom. If Jiang Wei did not notice, it was enough to kill him instantly. Jiang Wei looked at his empty chest. Even now he still could not believe that he had died like this. At the moment of his death, he seemed to understand why the heads of the Wang and Lu clans had died so quietly. Leng Shiqi walked to his side and whispered, Don't worry, your Jiang residents will be reunited in good order in hell. Chapter 317. The second strongest of the Jiang family, Jiang Wei, was killed by Leng Shiqi with a single finger, causing everyone in the Jiang family to feel despair. However, when the Dark Thunder Guards rushed forward, their despair turned into death. The number of spirit cultivators in the Jiang family was more than twice that of the Dark Thunder Guards, but most of them were in the pure spirit realm or the spirit gathering realm. There weren't many in the spirit transformation realm. Moreover, Dark Thunder Guards were Dark Thunder Guards after all. These people were selected elites. Their combat strength belonged to the top group of people of the same rank. Moreover, there were 30 assassins in black among the Dark Thunder Guards. What they were best at was killing people. The group of Dark Thunder Guards rushed forward like tigers into a flock of sheep. The Jiang family people collapsed upon contact, unable to stop them at all. The Jiang family still had a spirit cultivator in the early stage of the spirit pulse realm, but he was currently surrounded by Qiao Qian and Pang Yuan. His life was at stake, so how could he care about others? Jiang Xian was completely dumbfounded. He watched the Dark Thunder Guards wantonly slaughtering the Jiang family people. He even thought he was having a nightmare. However, the splattering blood and the bursts of screams told him that this was not a dream. Leng Shiqi also noticed Jiang Xian. With a flick of his finger, 2 rays of invigorating meridian sword chi pierced through his legs. Jiang Xian wailed, his body tilted and he knelt on the ground. He watched in horror as Leng Shiqi walked over step by step. That invigilator that he didn't care about yesterday was coming to take his life now. Leng Shiqi brought Wei Guan to Jiang Xian and said condescendingly, Are you the one who beat up the Dark Thunder Guards? Jiang Xian saw the undisguised killing intent in Leng Shiqi's eyes. He trembled and a filthy substance flowed out. Leng Shiqi handed a steel blade to Wei Guan and patted him on the shoulder. I'll leave Jiang Xian to you. You can do whatever you want with him. As he spoke, Leng Shiqi strolled leisurely in the battlefield. From time to time he would release a few rays of sword chi to kill those who wanted to escape. Wei Guan gripped his steel saber tightly. Seeing the defenseless Jiang Exin, he smiled sinisterly and raised his saber, sending a large head flying. In the Du residence, Jiang Hao was still discussing with Du Hechang how to deal with the Dark Thunder Guards. But all of a sudden, Jiang Hao felt a sense of annoyance. Seeing this, Du Hechang asked, "What's wrong with Brother Jiang? I don't know why, but I have an ominous feeling in my heart." Just as Jiang Hao finished his sentence, someone outside ran towards them with a terrified expression. He shouted as he ran, "Bad news, bad news." Jiang Hao turned around and saw that the man was one of his stewards. His heart sank as he pulled the man over and asked, "What's going on? Tell me." "Ma, Patriarch. Lu Xingji is here with the Dark Thunder Guards." "What?" Jiang Hao could not believe his own ears. Wasn't Lu Xingji at Zhuixiang Lu with the 7 family heads? How did he come to the Jiangfu? "I don't know, but he doesn't look like he's here with good intentions. Patriarch, you'd better go back quickly." Jiang Hao was about to leave when Du Hechang said, "Brother Jiang, please wait. I'll go with you. With us around, that Lu Xingji won't be able to stir up any trouble." Jiang Hao cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your help, Brother Du." He knew that the Dark Thunder Guards were very strong. If it was just his family alone, he would not have much confidence. But with the Du family it was different. In the Jiangfu, the Dark Thunder Guards blatantly slaughtered the Jiang family in broad daylight. Such a big movement naturally attracted the attention of many people. At this time, hundreds of people had gathered outside the Jiangfu's main gate to watch. But they all consciously stood more than 100 feet away from the gate, not daring to cross the line. What crime did the Jiang family commit to provoke the Dark Thunder Guards to be mobilized? From the looks of it, they want to exterminate the family. I heard that the Jiang family is harboring spies and is up to no good. Really? Who knows, but where did Jiang Hao go? If he's here, the Dark Thunder Guards might not dare to make a move. At this time, Jiang Hao and Du Hechang had rushed over in a hurry. Before they got close to the Jiangfu, they could hear the screams coming from inside. Jiang Hao's face suddenly changed. He took a step forward and rushed out, breaking through the crowd and coming to the Jiangfu's main gate. However, at this moment he was stunned. He saw the Dark Thunder Guards wantonly slaughtering the Jiang family. He saw his third brother Jiang Wei lying in a pool of blood. He saw the headless body of his son Jiang Exin. Moreover, he saw the Jiang family members dying at every moment. "No!" Jiang Hao roared to the sky. His voice was heart-wrenching and filled with boundless hatred. His gaze locked onto the person in the field who was wearing the inspector's uniform. That was Leng Shiqi. When Leng Shiqi saw Jiang Hao, he chuckled and said, "You're finally here." Jiang Hao gritted his teeth and shouted, "Lu, can see." Leng Shiqi could not be bothered to waste words with him. He clenched his hands and forced out 10 drops of essence blood from his fingertips, forming 10 blood veins. Immediately, demonic patterns appeared on his body. The blood veins merged with the demonic patterns and finally formed 4 blood veins. Leng Shiqi's presence suddenly rose to the late stage of the spirit pulse realm. Although Jiang Hao was furious, he did not lose his mind. He took out a heavy sword. His sword style seemed to be of the same origin as Jiang Wei's. Both were abnormally complex, but he had a heavier presence than Jiang Wei. Leng Shiqi unsheathed his inky jade sword. The sword came out of the ink river. His body was like a gust of wind, instantly bringing with it a majestic sword energy. Jiang Hao swung his sword. It was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. When the two collided, there was an ear-piercing sound. And a visible wave of air spread out, overturning the tiles in a radius of more than 100 feet. Jiang Hao retreated a few steps, but Leng Shiqi did not move at all. Jiang Hao was shocked. His cultivation was clearly higher than the other, but his power was far from the others. Leng Shiqi was not going to let this go. He punched and in an instant, a deep lion roar sounded. Then a Lion King shadow leapt out and charged at Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao's heavy sword exploded with yellow light, but before he could attack, the Lion King shadow was near him. He immediately felt a terrifyingly powerful fist power come. Even more terrifying was that this explosive fist power was like an endless wave. Jiang Hao lasted less than 2 breaths before his heavy sword cracked. Then the 2 fist powers, one bright and one dark, came at him at the same time. Jiang Hao couldn't help but have a trickle of blood at the corner of his mouth. This was Leng Shiqi replacing the tiger roaring fist of the tiger walking wave fist with the violent lion rage forest fist. Now it could be called the Lion King wave breaking fist. At the same time, dots of five-colored light flashed across Leng Shiqi's eyes. Jiang Hao was unsettled and was dazed for a moment. Jiang Hao quickly woke up, but to his horror, Leng Shiqi's figure disappeared. He hurriedly turned around only to see a very ordinary blade slash across. However, this seemingly ordinary blade slash easily shattered his heavy sword, and at the same time chopped off his head. Chapter 318. Leng Shiqi killed Jiang Wei, who was in the middle stage of the Spirit Pulse realm, with one finger, and killed Jiang Hao, who was in the late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm, in 3 moves. Such combat power had completely shocked everyone. Not only those who were watching the show but also the head of the Du family, Du Hechang. At this moment, Du Hechang's face was gloomy as he watched everything that was happening in the Jiangfu. Originally he was here to hold the line for Jiang Hao, but Jiang Hao was one step ahead. When Du Hechang arrived at the main gate of the Jiangfu, Jiang Hao was already decapitated. Du Hechang's heart was in turmoil. He had only taken a few steps, and the head of the Jiang family, Jiang Hao, who was in the late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm, was already killed. Was this new supervisor really only in the Spirit Pulse realm? At this moment he also met Leng Shiqi's gaze. Du Hechang finally understood why a person in the middle stage of the Spirit Pulse realm could hold the position of supervisor. It was not because the Dark Thunder Guards had no one, nor was it because the Dark Thunder Guards were blind. It was because this supervisor had enough strength. Du Hechang was already beginning to regret. He had been wrong from the beginning. The most serious mistake he made was to underestimate Leng Shiqi's strength and Leng Shiqi's methods. Leng Shiqi had used short-lived Night Blooming Sirius. At this moment he only had 20 to 30% of his strength left. He was definitely no match for Du Hechang. However, his aura did not diminish as he said coldly, "Head of the Du family, the Jiang family secretly harbored a criminal and colluded with the enemy to betray the country. I think the Du family should not have any connection with the Jiang family." Du Hechang's face instantly turned green and white. He knew that Leng Shiqi's words were pure nonsense. He could also see that Leng Shiqi was currently very weak. However, he could not make a move. After all, he was only the head of a family in Lanqi City. If he dared to make a move on the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guards, his Du family would not be far from being exterminated. Thus, Du Hechang cupped his fists and said, "The Jiang family actually did such an outrageous thing. They really deserve it. I am just passing by, Lord Lu, please go ahead." After saying that, he retreated far away. Leng Shiqi secretly smiled. Du Hechang's appearance here was indeed unexpected, but the result was the same whether he came or not. In just a short moment, all the spirit cultivators in the Jiang Manor had been slaughtered. Qiao Qian and some of the Dark Thunder Guards walked over with dozens of ordinary people. These people were the Jiangfu's family members and servants. Qiao Qian's face was covered in blood as he asked, "My lord, how should we deal with these people?" Leng Shiqi looked at him coldly and said, "I'll leave these people to you." Qiao Qian's heart tightened when he heard this, but he knew that this was a test from Leng Shiqi. However, Qiao Qian had never experienced this before. Looking at the helpless commoners, he began to struggle internally. At this moment, Pang Yuan walked over and said, "Are you waiting for the descendants of the Jiang family to seek revenge on you 20 years later?" Qiao Qian clenched his fists. He already knew what he had to do. His blood-stained face revealed a savage expression. He shouted sternly, "Kill." Leng Shiqi turned his back to the crowd and said indifferently, "Quickly plunder all the Jiang family's wealth. We still have guests to receive." Not long after, the Dark Thunder Guards carried 20 to 30 large boxes out of the Jiang Manor, each of them with bloodstains on their bodies. The people outside hurriedly made way for a very wide path. They waited until the Dark Thunder Guards disappeared before they reached the entrance of the Jiang Manor. However, what they saw was a scene of hell on earth. Leng Shiqi led the Dark Thunder Guards to a street corner and split into 2 groups. Most of the Dark Thunder Guards returned to the Dark Thunder Manor with the Jiang family's resources. The other group, the assassins from the Blood Clothing Pavilion, followed Leng Shiqi to the Drunken Fragrance House. At this time, there were many people gathered around the Drunken Fragrance House. Only then did they see Leng Shiqi and the others walking over. However, they also saw the bloodstains on these people's bodies, as well as the smell of blood emitting from their bodies. Especially Qiao Qian and Pang Yuan. Each of them was holding a bloody head in their hands. The crowd immediately recognized that it was the head of the Jiang family, Jiang Hao, and his brother, Jiang Wei. The crowd suddenly exploded. However, they were all shocked by Leng Shiqi's group and covered their mouths, not daring to speak loudly. When they walked into the Drunken Fragrance House, There was finally an uproar outside. I didn't see wrong, right? That's the head of the Jiang family, Jiang Hao. That's right, an expert in the late stage of the spirit pulse realm died just like that. What happened to the Jiang family? We thought the main event was here, but it's actually over at the Jiang family's side. Let's go to the Jiang family and take a look. In the private room of the Drunken Fragrance house, the 7 family heads were already a little impatient from waiting. It was reasonable for the invigilator to leave them hanging for a while, but almost an hour had passed, and Leng Shiqi still had not appeared. This caused quite a few people to be dissatisfied. However, there were also people who were calm and composed, such as Zhong Cheng and the Wang family's elders. At this moment, the Wan family head, Wan Sheng, stood up and said, "Brother Qiu, when will the Lord Invigilator arrive?" Qiu Qing did not give Wan Sheng any face. He said coldly, "The Lord Invigilator is busy with many affairs every day. Wan family head should wait a while. There's no rush, no rush." Wan Sheng's temper wasn't very good to begin with. Now that Qiu Qing didn't give him any face, Wan Sheng's face fell. "Brother Qiu, to put it bluntly, my Wan clan is only second to the Jiang clan and the Du clan. The reason I came today is to give face to the Lord Invigilator, but you, a dark lightning envoy, do not have the qualifications to be arrogant in front of me." Qiu Qing smiled lightly and said, "What, is the Wan family head tired of waiting? You can leave at any time and I will not stop you. It's just that, whether or not the Wan family head can see the sun tomorrow is another matter." Wan Sheng was furious, but he did not act out. The reason he came to the Drunken Fragrance house was because he was afraid that he would die inexplicably like Wang Qingze. "Oh, it's quite lively here." At this moment, a voice transmitted over. Following that, Leng Shiqi appeared with Qiao Qian and Pang Yuan. Qiu Qing immediately bowed and said, "This lowly subordinate pays respect to your excellency." When the others saw the bloodstains and blood qi on the Leng Shiqi trio, they all frowned and their hearts tightened. Qiu Qing handed over a handkerchief when he saw this. Leng Shiqi picked up the handkerchief and wiped the bloodstains on his hands. He said, "This envoy came late and made all the family heads wait for a long time. Truly sinful. But the reason why this envoy was late was to prepare some small gifts for everyone." Qiao Qian and Pang Yuan understood and casually threw the heads hidden behind them onto the table, only to see 2 bloody heads roll several times on the table. The entire table was already stained with blood. The 7 family heads looked over. Those 2 heads that died with remaining grievances were actually Jiang Hao and Jiang Wei's heads. The 7 people were all horrified. Chapter 319. When the family heads saw Jiang Hao and Jiang Wei's heads rolling on the table, they were all shocked. Jiang Hao and Jiang Wei's heads were thrown here. What did this mean? When they thought of the blood on Leng Shiqi and the others, they immediately thought of a possibility. The Jiang family had been destroyed. But they didn't dare to believe it. That was the Jiang family that had been rooted in Lanqi City for more than 20 years. Among them there was Jiang Hao, a spirit cultivator in the late stage of the spirit pulse realm. How could they be destroyed just like that? But these 2 heads were right in front of them. They had to believe it even if they didn't want to. However, after accepting this fact, they became even more fearful. Because they finally knew why Leng Shiqi had only appeared now. They also knew why Leng Shiqi did this. That was to intimidate them. They knew that the Dark Thunder Guards could even destroy the Jiang family, so their small and medium-sized families were naturally nothing. These family heads, who were usually high and mighty, all secretly swallowed their saliva. There were even 2 people whose hands began to tremble. They were really frightened by Leng Shiqi's cruel methods. Leng Shiqi said kindly, "Everyone, are you satisfied with this small gift?" Satisfied. Lord Lu is really considerate. This is my first time meeting Lord Lu, but I didn't bring any gifts. It's really a sin." Several people showed an extremely ugly smile and perfunctorily said. Leng Shiqi smiled gently and said, "Everyone, there's no need to be so polite. The fact that you're willing to come is already giving me face." Hearing this, the family heads' hearts skipped a beat. They knew that Leng Shiqi was going to settle the score. However, Leng Shiqi directly ignored this matter and said, "Today, I invited the family heads of the 8 great families to come here to discuss something." When they heard Leng Shiqi mention the words 8 great clans, they were still not used to it. Their expressions were a little strange. In addition, Leng Shiqi did not pursue the matter of them attending the banquet 2 days ago, which surprised them. At this moment, Zhong Cheng cupped his fists and said, "May I ask if Lord Lu has any instructions? As long as my Zhong family can do it, we will definitely support Lord Lu. Leng Shiqi didn't say what it was, but Zhong Qing immediately agreed. Obviously he had already surrendered. Patriarch Zhong, you're exaggerating. How would I dare to instruct you all? I'm only here to discuss the matter of consecration. As expected, the patriarchs had already guessed that Leng Shiqi must be looking for them for worship. Leng Shiqi knocked on the table. A few days ago you handed in only a third of what you used to give. I can let bygones be bygones. Huh? The patriarchs looked at each other, their hearts filled with doubt. Just now, Leng Shiqi didn't care about them slapping Leng Shiqi's face, and now he didn't pursue the matter of less consecration. Then what did he want? Leng Shiqi said, from today onwards the rules of consecration should be changed. From today onwards, your consecration will no longer be handed in according to the amount, but according to your monthly share of profits. Zhong Qing asked hesitantly, Lord, how much do we have to hand in? Leng Shiqi stretched out his hand and raised 3 fingers. 30%. 30%? Everyone trembled. They all felt that Leng Shiqi was asking for too much. Their monthly profits were not small, but just supporting such a large family was a huge hole. In addition, they also had to train the family's children and leave behind capital for unexpected needs. After all, they didn't have much left in the first place. If they had to hand in 30% to the Dark Thunder Guards every month, then they really wouldn't be able to eat. Wan Sheng was the first to disagree. He said with a sullen face, Lord Lu, the consecration last time was too small. I admit that we were wrong. In the future we will make up for it. But isn't 30% too much? We really don't know what to say. He felt that he had already lowered his attitude to the lowest. He was waiting for Leng Shiqi's reply. However, what was waiting for him was Leng Shiqi's explosion. Leng Shiqi formed a seal with one hand, and lightning suddenly appeared in the room. A dozen lightning bolts as thick as an arm smashed down. It turned out that Leng Shiqi had already set up a lightning array in the room. How could Wan Sheng have thought that Leng Shiqi would suddenly attack when they were talking nicely? The dozen lightning bolts smashed down, causing Wan Sheng to scream in pain. The lightning entered his body and numbed him. At the same time, Leng Shiqi unsheathed his black jade sword. Demonic patterns appeared, and a sword ray that was like splashing ink suddenly slashed down. Wan Sheng's head also slid down and coincidentally rolled onto the table. Leng Shiqi put away his sword and sat down as if nothing had happened. He sighed softly and said, I haven't finished speaking yet. What's the rush? It's finally quiet now. Right, where was I just now? The remaining 6 people were all dumbfounded. Their hearts almost jumped out of their bodies. How could they have expected that Leng Shiqi would suddenly kill people on the spot? And this room had already been tampered with. While they were frightened, they were also very glad. They were glad that Wan Sheng was the first to speak and not them. Otherwise, the head rolling on the table wouldn't be Wan Sheng's but one of them. Zhong Qing was usually the most timid, and he cherished his life the most. He was the first to react. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He said, Sir, you said that we have to pay 30% of the profits every month. Zhong Qing will definitely do it. Leng Shiqi nodded with satisfaction and said, Very good. The Wan family's business will belong to the Zhong family in the future. Just a simple sentence from him had caused the Zhong family's business to increase by more than 2-fold. Zhong Qing immediately knelt down and said, Thank you, sir, for your reward. From now on, the Zhong family will belong to sir. I will definitely serve sir with all my loyalty. Seeing this scene, the other 5 people were a little regretful. If they had surrendered earlier, the Wan family's business would have been theirs. It must be known that the Wan family was a powerful family second only to the Jiang family and the Du family. They had many shops and resources in their hands. Leng Shiqi naturally saw through their thoughts. Family heads, don't be anxious. The Jiang family has been destroyed, and there are many businesses left. They can all be divided among you. Hiss. The 6 of them secretly gasped. The Jiang family was a big family. Even if the 6 of them divided it equally, they would all get a big piece of fat meat. If that was the case, paying 30% of the profits every month did not seem unacceptable. They were all tempted. Leng Shiqi continued, This is just a small profit. The reason why I asked you to pay 30% is because I will give you more wealth. As long as you agree to my conditions from now on, you don't have to do that business secretly anymore. You can do it openly. I will support you. The patriarchs naturally knew what Leng Shiqi meant by that part of the business. It was smuggling. In the past, even with the tacit consent of the Dark Thunder Guards, they were careful and did not dare to go too far. If they could do it openly as Ling Shiqi said, it would be equivalent to a business with small capital and huge profits. Huge profits, huge profits. In this way their profits would soar several times or even 10 times. Even if they paid 30% of the profits, the remaining profits would be much more than what they were getting now. The 6 of them said at the same time, "We are willing to be Sir Lu's leaders." Chapter 320. In the courtyard of the Dark Thunder Manor, there were more than 60 heavy boxes. Most of these were the resources obtained from the Jiang and Wan residences, and a small portion was the offerings from the remaining 6 families for this month. Although Lung Shiqi said that he didn't care, they handed them over obediently. The Dark Thunder Guards also surrounded these boxes, their eyes shining. They had never seen so many resources piled up together. This was already more than 3 times the wealth of the Dark Thunder Manor. Lung Shiqi said loudly, 20% of these resources will be mine, and 30% will be yours. The Dark Thunder Guards were moved when they heard this. With so many resources, even if they split 30% equally, it would be equivalent to their monthly salary for a year. They were a little surprised that Lung Shiqi was so generous, but of course they were even more delighted. The remaining 40% will be given to the supervisor in charge of the North County, Lord Duan Chun. Lung Shiqi promised to openly smuggle resources to the families in Lanqi City. This was actually breaking the rules of the Dark Thunder Guards, so he needed to use a large amount of resources to shut Duan Chun's mouth. As for the last 10%, give it to the city lord's residence, Lung Shiqi said. He had caused such a big commotion in the city and even killed the entire Jiang family in broad daylight. How could the city lord's residence not know about this? However, the city lord's residence and the city guards didn't react at all, which meant that they tacitly approved of Lung Shiqi's actions. This was a small favor that Lung Shiqi had to repay. After distributing the resources, Lung Shiqi began to pick what he wanted. There weren't many cultivation methods and spiritual techniques among these resources, and their grades weren't high either, but Lung Shiqi still secretly learned them. It was good to expand his spiritual techniques. Then he directly took 23rd transformation spirit pills and some rare treasures to strengthen his body. During this period of time, he had consumed a lot of 3rd transformation spirit pills. In order to increase his cultivation rapidly, he had to replenish some. But at the same time, because his spiritual power was increasing very quickly, his physical strength hadn't increased much in a long time. It was already a bit of a burden to him. Therefore, Lung Shiqi was preparing to refine some treasures to increase his physical strength. Other than these, he only picked some resources that were not commonly used in order to accumulate system coins. After that, Lung Shiqi went back to his room and sold all the materials to the system for 1080 system coins. Looking at the system coins, Lung Shiqi's mind became active again. Now he could draw 10 intermediate lottery draws and 1 unlimited lottery draw. Both methods had their pros and cons. Lung Shiqi hesitated for a moment before deciding to do an unlimited draw. The unlimited lottery draw could be said to be a way to win big with a small amount of money. It was indeed very likely that it would draw a beginner or intermediate prize, which would make him suffer a huge loss. However, it was also possible to draw a high-level or even God-tier prize. Rather than drawing some useless mid-level prizes, it was better to gamble. Moreover, he came prepared this time. That was the Stage 2 index card that he bought before. With this, the probability of drawing a good prize would increase by a lot. Since he had made up his mind, Lung Shiqi directly opened the lottery draw page and locked onto the unlimited lottery draw. However, at this time he first used the Stage 2 index card. The first thing he could do was to take the initiative to choose which world the prize came from. Animation world, literature world, film world, game world, etc. Lung Shiqi did not hesitate to choose the game world. Then many options appeared in front of his eyes, including equipment, materials, mounts, items, instance dungeons, skills. As soon as Lung Shiqi saw the word mount, he thought of it. When he completed the mission on Blood Mist Island, he had drawn an advanced mount pill. He had been keeping it at the bottom of his chest until now. If he could get a mount, then the high-grade mount pill would come in handy. However, a hint of hesitation flashed in his eyes and he gave up. This was because no matter what mount he drew, it would be a bit eye-catching. If it was an ordinary mount, it would be fine. However, if he drew a creature that did not exist in this world, how would he explain it? Therefore he still chose the skill. After a flash of light, a system notification appeared in front of his eyes. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the top prize. Fate? Lung Shiqi did not immediately remember what skill this was. He could not help but look at the skill description. Displays the location of all creatures on the map, including those in stealth mode, for 6 seconds. When the Fate skill is activated, the user can be teleported to any place within 100 miles after 5 seconds of channeling. Cooldown time, 1 natural day. When Leng Shiqi saw this description, he finally remembered. This was the ultimate skill of the card master in the Alliance game. This skill did not have any actual killing power, but it had a strong support ability and could instantly turn the situation into a situation where there were many enemies. However, the current skill was slightly different from the one in his memory. Since this was the real world, it was reasonable for it to be a little different. However, Leng Shiqi was still a little doubtful about the display of creatures on the map's skill. This skill might require him to use his system map. However, if he did not open the system map, would this skill not work? Why not give it a try first? Just as Leng Shiqi was about to try out the skill, he realized that this skill could also be upgraded. He hurriedly used his unlimited skill points to upgrade Fate, but it could only be upgraded to level 3 at most. He looked at the skill description again. The original 6 seconds duration had now been extended to 10 seconds, and the range had also expanded to a radius of 300 miles. Leng Shiqi was also quite curious about the effects of Fate, so he immediately activated it. Immediately after, his system map automatically opened, and the field of view on the map kept increasing. However, the strange thing was that even though his field of view seemed to be high up in the sky, he could clearly see everyone on the map. It was a pity that his system map was not lit up much and most of it was still pitch black. Within a radius of 300 miles, only Misty City AI Mingshan and the road from the West Wilderness Prefecture to Misty City were lit up. Now he finally understood that as long as he willed it, he could directly teleport to any lit-up place on the map. After activating Fate, it only lasted for 10 seconds and soon more than half of it had passed. Leng Shiqi originally did not intend to teleport out, but just as he was about to deactivate the skill, he suddenly noticed someone. That person was the head of the Du family, Du Hachang. They had just met this morning, but Du Hachang was already 100 miles away from Misty City at this time. Coincidentally, the direction he was heading in was a third-rate sect that Leng Shiqi had passed by on his way to Misty City. Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed and red, blue and yellow lights lit up under his feet. Finally, his figure disappeared. Chapter 321. In the Misty Chi City's City Lord's mansion, City Lord Sun Gang was reading a piece of information carefully. A person was standing behind him with 6 large chests beside them. After a while, Sun Gang put down the report and smiled. This Lu Xingji is quite capable and bold. He's quite interesting. Standing behind him was the commander of the Misty Chi City's city guards, Su Ji. Both of them were at the Spirit Aperture realm. Since the West Desolate Province was at the border, the weakest person who could hold the position of City Lord and commander of the city guards was at the Spirit Aperture realm. Su Ji said in a deep voice, "City Lord, it's fine that Lu Xingji eradicated his dissidents. After all, it's an internal matter of the Dark Thunder Guards. However, he executed the entire Jiang clan in public, which has already made everyone in Misty Chi City anxious. It's indeed a bit too much. Also, he actually dared to let the other major clans, other than the Du clan, smuggle in public. He's simply audacious." Sun Gang looked deeply at Su Ji and said, "Su Ji, you have to know that our City Lord Residence's responsibility is to ensure the stability of Misty Chi City. We don't have to care about anything else. Even if the major clans smuggle in public, it's the Dark Thunder Guards who are in charge. If this matter is exposed, the Great Supervisor will naturally deal with Lu Xingji. We don't have to interfere. Moreover, you've seen the report on Lu Xingji. You think he's reckless and audacious, but I dare to bet that the North Region's Great Supervisor Duan Chun won't find trouble with him." Not only did a mid-stage Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator quickly secure his position as a supervisor, he even used his authority to make a fortune. Even the higher-ups will turn a blind eye to it. How can such a person be a fish in a pond? The more Su Ji listened, the more annoyed he felt. He knew what Sun Gang said, but there was an indescribable feeling in his heart that made him unusually depressed. However, Sun Gang could see through Su Ji's thoughts. He was jealous. As a supervisor, Leng Shiqi's position was half a level higher than Su Ji's, but his cultivation was far inferior to Su Ji's. That was fine. Su Ji was conscientious in managing the city guards and had never made any mistakes. However, he could only receive a fixed monthly salary. What about Leng Shiqi? They had only been in Misty City for a few days, but they had already plundered a large amount of resources. As the saying goes, there is no harm if there is no comparison. Suji was really a little jealous. However, Sun Gang didn't expose him. He said, "What I'm curious about is how will he deal with the Du family?" Back then, it was the Jiang family and the Du family who had joined forces to pressure Lu Xingji. Now that the Jiang family had been annihilated, the rest of the families had already sided with Lu Xingji. What would he do with the Du family? Du Hexiang must be very anxious as well. That's right, Du Hexiang was very anxious. It could even be described as fear and terror. At this time he was galloping on his horse. His horse was not an ordinary horse, but a specially bred spirit horse. In a sense, the spirit horse could also be reluctantly called a demonic beast that was not ranked. Could travel hundreds of miles in a day. Of course, it was very rare and could be counted with one's fingers in the entire Misty Chi city. Du Hexiang hurried on his way. His heart was filled with worry and fear. It was too fast. Leng Shiqi took down the major families too quickly. It was so fast that it was beyond his imagination. It was so fast that he was afraid. In just 3 days the original 9 super clans had become 7 super clans. Now the remaining 6 family heads had already sided with Lu Xingji and had even made a fortune because of it. His Du family had become a loner. If this went on, Leng Shiqi wouldn't even need to do anything. Just the 6 major families would slowly crush the Du family. Now that the Du family was relying on themselves, they would follow in the footsteps of the Jiang family sooner or later. Thus he needed to seek help. And the person he sought help from was the third-rate sect, Profound Yang sect. Profound Yang sect was located on Profound Yang Mountain, more than 200 miles away from Misty Chi City. Du Hexiang rode on his spirit horse and could reach it in less than a day. At night, Du Hexiang could already see Profound Yang Mountain. His heart also calmed down a little. However, what he didn't know was that in the forest that he had just passed, someone was hiding and watching him. This person was naturally Leng Shiqi. During the day after he activated his fate skill, he saw Du Hexiang galloping on his horse. The reason why Leng Shiqi chose to attack the Jiang family today was because Jiang Xin had beaten up Wei Guan. This was a loss of face for the Dark Lightning Guards, which was also a loss of face for Leng Shiqi. Secondly, the Jiang family obviously didn't betray the country, but the Du family was really suspicious. However, the Dark Lightning Guards hadn't found any conclusive evidence yet. Thus, Leng Shiqi wanted to lure the snake out of its hole. He deliberately chose to destroy the Jiang family to intimidate the other families. At the same time he wanted to make Du Hexiang panic. Once he panicked he would naturally seek help. Whoever he looked for would be the biggest suspect. As long as he followed this trail he might really be able to catch a big fish. Leng Shiqi saw the direction that Du Hexiang went and determined that he was most likely going to Profound Yang sect. Thus, he directly teleported to the vicinity of Profound Yang Mountain. At this moment, Du Hexiang really appeared here. Leng Shiqi thought to himself. This time, after activating his fate skill, he came out a bit suddenly. However, in the Dark Lightning manner, no one would go to his room in a short period of time. He decided to wait until tomorrow to teleport back. Right now, he was preparing to sneak into Profound Yang sect to investigate. When Du Hexiang hurriedly entered Profound Yang sect, he didn't know that there was a tail following behind him. Profound Yang sect master, Li Xianyang, was a gray-haired old man. However, his cultivation was actually at the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. When he found out that Du Hexiang wanted to see him in the middle of the night, he was a bit surprised. When he saw the travel-worn and anxious Du Hexiang, he knew that something bad was going to happen. When Du Hexiang saw Li Xianyang, he immediately went over and said, "Sect Master Li, something bad has happened." Li Xianyang sat down and said, "Speak slowly." Du Hexiang said, "Sect Master Li, that matter can't continue. Not to mention that matter, even my Du family can't protect itself now." Li Xianyang frowned. What happened in Misty Chi City? Following that, Du Hexiang told him about what Leng Shiqi did. Li Xianyang exclaimed in surprise, "This Lu Xingji actually has such methods." Actually, there was something he didn't say in his heart, and that was that Du Hexiang was too useless. That's right. Originally, Sect Master Li wanted me to work with the other 8 great clans to provide Zhu Luguo with the fine iron to make arrows. Actually, everything was going quite smoothly. However, ever since that Lu Xingji came he turned Misty Chi City upside down. Now, my Du family is the enemy of everyone in Misty Chi City. We could be overthrown at any time. Sect Master Li, please help this Du. Li Xianyang's eyes were filled with killing intent. He's just a brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Since he doesn't know what's good for him, then let's change the supervisor. The previous supervisor, Yu, will end up like Lu Xingji. Chapter 322. Leng Shiqi, who had heard all of this, was secretly shocked. He had only come to investigate who the Du family was colluding with, but it ended up implicating the previous supervisor, Sha Yu's death. And the Du family and the Profound Yang sect were actually in cahoots with the Zhulu country. The Zhulu country was the weakest country among the 6 countries of the western region. Its area was not even as big as the western desolate province. Through the Profound Yang sect and the Du family, they smuggled large amounts of fine iron from the Thunderfire dynasty to forge arrows. What did they need arrows for? Of course it was to fight. Now, it seemed that this small country was actually hiding quite a big ambition. Leng Shiqi thought to himself. This trip could be considered a coincidence. Not only did he find out the cause of Sha Yu's death, he also found out that the Du family and the Profound Yang sect were secretly colluding with the Zhulu country. However, it was useless, because he had no evidence. The Profound Yang sect was not a small Jiang family that he could destroy as he wished. If he could have conclusive evidence, it would be a great contribution. However, Leng Shiqi heard the meaning behind Li Xuanyang's words. They seemed to want to make a move on him. Leng Shiqi concealed his aura and continued to listen. Li Xuanyang said, "Take a short rest and rush back immediately. Don't alert anyone. Then, think of a way to lure Lu Xingji out of the Misty Qi city. As for the rest, this Du understands, but..." Du Hachang was a little hesitant. "But what?" Du Hachang said, "It's just that the storm of Sha Yu's death is not over yet. Although the Misty Qi city did not send the Dark Thunder Guards to investigate, the North Region's supervisor, Duan Chun, has been secretly investigating this matter. If we kill Lu Xingji now, will we be exposed?" Li Xuanyang stroked his beard and said, "You've thought it through quite thoroughly. But don't worry, I'm not going to kill Lu Xingji this time. With his insignificant cultivation, if I wanted to kill him, would I need you to lure him out? Coincidentally, the Zhulu country's people gave me a strange goo poison that can control people's hearts. It's just right to use it on Lu Xingji, a Spirit Pulse Realm supervisor. At that time, we will have a Dark Thunder Guard supervisor in our hands. It will be more convenient for us to do things in the future." Du Hachang was bewildered. There's actually such a miraculous item in this world. If that's the case, we can control the Dark Thunder Guards in Mist City without being targeted by Duan Chun. This is killing several birds with one stone. Alright, you should hurry back to avoid being noticed. I'll do it right away. Soon after, Du Hachang hurriedly left the Profound Sun Mountain. However, Leng Shiqi did not leave. He listened to Li Xuanyang and Du Hachang's plan and was glad that he had made the trip. Otherwise, with his character, he might really be lured out of the city by Du Hachang. The consequences would be unimaginable. However, since he already knew, the initiative was in his hands. The reason he didn't leave was because he felt that Li Xuanyang was hiding something from Du Hachang. He wanted to find out what Li Xuanyang was planning. Moreover, he couldn't rush back to Mist City. He could only wait for Fate's cooldown to be over and teleport back. After Du Hachang left, a person walked in. He was the Grand Elder of Profound Sun Sect, Li Feizhou, a Spirit Aperture Realm middle stage cultivator. Profound Sun Sect was founded by Li Xuanyang and Li Feizhou, 2 Spirit Aperture Realm experts. Li Feizhou said in a deep voice, "Senior brother, you're sinking deeper and deeper." Li Xuanyang didn't look at him and said indifferently, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sai, senior brother, you and I are already so old, why can't you see past it?" "See past it? You're the one who can't see past it." Li Xuanyang's voice suddenly became louder. "You know that we're already so old, but among our disciples, which one has the hope of breaking through to the Spirit Aperture Realm? When we're all dead, do you think Profound Sun Sect will still exist without a Spirit Aperture Realm expert to hold the fort?" Li Feizhou shook his head. "It's fate. Profound Sun Sect's fate may only allow it to exist for a few decades." Li Xuanyang said angrily, "What fate? I don't believe in fate. As long as I can help Zhulugua collect the refined iron, they will give me the first Origin 9 Aperture Crystal. With it, I can break through to the Gang Spirit Realm. Gang Spirit Realm. At that time, I will not only prolong my life, but also lead Profound Sun Sect to become a second-rate sect." Li Feizhou saw Li Xuanyang's crazy expression and couldn't help but sigh. "Senior brother, you know better than anyone whether you're doing this for Profound Sun Sect or for yourself. Whether it's to collect refined iron for Zhulugua or to kill the previous supervisor, Sha Yu, this crystal is enough to destroy Profound Sun Sect. Do you really think the Dark Thunder Guards of Western Wilderness Prefecture are mediocre? I'm afraid they've already noticed it, but they're not 100% sure. Once the Dark Thunder Guards find evidence, Profound Sun Sect will be destroyed. What's more, the Discipline Commission is watching us covetously. Senior brother, what you're doing is pushing us to the edge of a cliff. A little carelessness and we'll fall into the abyss. Listen to my advice and stop. Stop? Li Xinyang laughed. Ha, Feizhou, you're still so naive. From the moment I helped Zhu Lugua transport refined iron, we had no way out. For the sake of our many years of friendship, as long as you don't stop me, you'll still be the first elder of Profound Sun Sect, and I won't pursue the matter of you practicing demonic arts. But if you're stubborn, don't blame me for being cruel. Li Xinyang flicked his sleeves and left. Li Feizhou sighed deeply and also walked away, but his figure looked a little stooped. Leng Shiqi, who was hiding underground, understood everything after hearing all this. Zhu Lugua needed refined iron that could only be produced in the Thunder Flame dynasty, and Li Xinyang needed rare materials to break through to Gang spirit realm. So they hit it off. Although the Profound Yang sect was a third-rate sect, it was still a proper sect for spirit cultivators. There were many families that wanted to curry favor with the Profound Yang sect. In Leng Shiqi's opinion, there should be a lot of people like Du Hechang, who were scattered in the big and small cities around Profound Sun Sect, collecting refined iron for Profound Sun Sect. At this moment, Leng Shiqi quietly sneaked out of the Profound Sun Mountain. He knew that a huge contribution was placed in front of him. However, if he wanted to take all of this contribution, he would have to carefully arrange everything. First of all, Du Hechang could be used, and he could also ask his Dark Thunder Guards to check if there were people smuggling refined iron in other cities. The more people he managed to dig out, the greater the credit he would get. In addition, he had to find a way to overthrow Profound Sun Sect. As long as he could prove that Profound Sun Sect colluded with Zhu Lugua, he would not only have a great merit, but also get an unimaginable amount of resources. But it was impossible for him to do this alone. Li Xinyang alone could kill him with 2 slaps, not to mention other things. So this matter had to be planned carefully. Leng Shiqi thought to himself, the most important thing now is to prove Du Hechang's crime, then use him as a springboard to find evidence of Profound Sun Sect. Du Hechang is easy to deal with, but to deal with Li Xinyang, I have to borrow the strength of others. Leng Shiqi thought for a while. He had 3 choices. First, he could report this matter and let the supervisor Duan Chun deal with it. The Dark Thunder Guards of the North region were more than enough to deal with Profound Sun Sect. But if he did that, all the merit would go to Duan Chun. At most, he would get the supervisor credit and get the leftovers. Second, he could join forces with the Misty Chi City's City Lord Manor. The City Lord Manor also had 2 Spirit Aperture Realm experts and hundreds of city guards, so he did not need to fear Profound Sun Sect. But he had not interacted with the City Lord Manor's people before, so he did not know their depth. There was no trust between the 2 sides. Third, he could mobilize the people of Blood Robe Pavilion. He had the silver-marked Blood Kill Order, so he could mobilize a large number of assassins in the West Desolate Province. He could even directly destroy Profound Sun Sect. But if he did that, it would be difficult to explain the origin of the experts of Blood Robe Pavilion, and it would be very easy to be exposed. If he was found out, then all his efforts would be in vain. Just as Leng Shiqi was hesitating, his illusion world trembled slightly. Chapter 323. Suddenly, Leng Shiqi felt the illusion world tremble slightly, and then a lazy voice sounded, Leng Shiqi, quickly release my main body. When Leng Shiqi heard this voice, he knew that Nine Leaf had woken up. Fortunately, he had already left Profound Sun Mountain. He quickly sank into the ground and opened up a space to release Nine Leaf's main body. Immediately, a green light drilled out from between Leng Shiqi's eyebrows. It was Nine Leaf's soul body. Leng Shiqi keenly observed that Nine Leaf's soul body was obviously much stronger than before. After Nine Leaf's soul and fleshly body fused into one, her fleshly body immediately released traces of purple light. Now, Nine Leaf's main body was already the size of a millstone, and it was still growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only was her body growing, but her aura was also growing. It wasn't until Nine Leaf grew several times that it stopped, and her aura was clearly that of a rank 4 monster. Leng Shiqi was secretly shocked. Recently, Nine Leaf had been sleeping for a long time, but she didn't do anything. After waking up, she directly advanced, which made Leng Shiqi a little envious. Nine Leaf spun around twice and said, the recovery of the body is not bad. Leng Shiqi raised his eyebrows slightly. Although Nine Leaf only said this short sentence, he still felt that Nine Leaf's tone and attitude seemed to have changed. He remembered that when he was still in the demonic Miasma Mountain range, Nine Leaf had been demoted from a rank 7 great demon to a rank 2 little demonic beast. All day long she looked like she had a deep grudge. She even asked Leng Shiqi to address her as an equal. Later she became a rank 3 monster and was very curious about the outside world. It seemed that she had the mentality of a little girl. Now Leng Shiqi dared to feel that Nine Leaf's tone was a little cold. Leng Shiqi decided to test it out. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior, congratulations on recovering your rank 4 cultivation. It's just around the corner." Nine Leaf said, "I've only recovered a little. It's just a little bit. There's still a long way to go before my cultivation recovers. Your cultivation has also improved very quickly. Where are we now?" Leng Shiqi grasped an important point from Nine Leaf's words, which was that Nine Leaf felt that he already had the foundation to establish himself. She was now a 4th rank monster beast, which was equivalent to a spirit aperture realm expert. However, with her strength she could even fight with those in the gang spirit realm, so she did have the confidence. But this is not good for Leng Shiqi. This was because the difference in their strength was too great. Although the two of them had an equal blood contract, the difference in their strength still put them in different positions. Perhaps this was the reason for Nine Leaf's change in attitude. The demon race was just that straightforward. Leng Shiqi briefly explained what happened in the Western Wilderness Prefecture. Of course, he did not mention anything about the Bloodseed Project. Nine Leaf said, "You ran from Donglin County to Mukin County and then to the Western Desolate County. In just a few months you've traversed the entire Thunderblaze dynasty. It's a pity that there's still something good in Extreme Fire Manor. With my current cultivation I can get it, but it's too far away." Leng Shiqi did not expect that Nine Leaf was still thinking about the things in Extreme Fire Manor. However, it was precisely because Nine Leaf swallowed a large amount of resources in Extreme Fire Manor that he quickly recovered to the 4th rank. Nine Leaf continued, "Since we've come to the Western Wilderness Prefecture and are still close to the 6 countries of the Western region, there must be a lot of good things here. You continue to be the supervisor. I'll go out for a walk." Speaking of this, Nine Leaf planned to leave directly, but Leng Shiqi stopped him. "Senior, please wait. I actually have a request." Nine Leaf smiled humanly and said, "Humph, I knew something was up from your expression just now. You can tell me, but how much effort do you want from me? You have to pay the corresponding price." Leng Shiqi had known this would happen. Fortunately, he now had the support of the Dark Thunder Manor and the 6 families, which should be enough for Nine Leaf. Thus he told Nine Leaf about Li Shenyang and Du Hechang teaming up to attack him. Nine Leaf said, "There really is such a parasite that can control people's hearts. However, I'm guessing that this thing should have a huge flaw." "Interesting. Do you want me to kill Li Shenyang?" "Easy." Leng Shiqi was shocked. Li Shenyang was a late-stage spirit aperture realm expert, but in Nine Leaf's mouth he was like a fish on a chopping board. However, Li Shenyang could not die yet, so he said, "Li Shenyang is going to die, but before he dies there's something I want to do." "Junior plans to." Nine Leaf's eyes lit up when he heard Leng Shiqi's words. "Leng Shiqi, you're quite thoughtful. I can do what you said, but you have to pay the corresponding price." Leng Shiqi said, "Senior Nine Leaf, what do you need?" "There's no Yao core here, so I need a large amount of heavenly treasures. The worst has to be rank 4. Leng Shiqi said without hesitation, "After Junior destroys the Du family, all of the Du family's resources will belong to Senior." Nine Leaf tilted his head. "Brat, you're getting more and more adept at making empty promises. Junior doesn't dare." "Forget it. My strength has increased greatly, so I'm in a good mood, so I won't bicker with you. Moreover, I can give you a piece of information for free." Information? Leng Shiqi felt it was strange. Nine Leaf had been asleep all this time, so what information could she have? Of course he still said, "Junior would like to hear the details." Nine Leaf's voice became serious. "After I woke up, my soul recovered to the level of a rank 4 Yao beast. It shook your spiritual space. You should have felt it." Leng Shiqi nodded. "But at the moment when it shook, I faintly sensed another aura in your spiritual space." "What?" Leng Shiqi was shocked. He knew what Nine Leaf meant. In other words, other than Nine Leaf, there were other things hidden in his spiritual space. But what could it be? Nine Leaf continued, "I can also tell you that other than me, there are 2 other auras in your spiritual space. Your spiritual space has undergone a mutation, and the heavenly Yao soul crystal has merged into your spiritual space. And I'm a soul-leaving scorpion, so I'm very sensitive to soul auras. Moreover, I've used the heavenly Yao soul crystal to cultivate for hundreds of years, so I definitely can't be wrong." 2. Leng Shiqi was no longer surprised. but his heart sank and he frowned. "Senior, what are the characteristics of those two auras?" "I only sensed it for a moment. One of them gave me a dreamlike feeling. The other one is very strange. It seems to be between a living thing and a dead thing. This aura is hidden very deeply, almost to the depths of your soul." Leng Shiqi's face became more and more ugly. He was secretly guessing what those two auras were. Mo Ling, Nine Leave and Meng Tianzong had entered his spiritual space before. According to Nine Leave, that dreamlike aura should be Meng Tianzong. He remembered that in the different space of the Divine Dream Illusion Palace, when Meng Tianzong woke up, everyone's memories had been tampered with. However, he absorbed a 7-colored light and instantly opened 9 spirit veins. He thought to himself, "It must be at that time that Meng Tianzong did something to me. He didn't kill us, so he has other plans. But what is the other aura? The other one shouldn't be Mo Ling. Mo Ling was already killed by me. Even if he wasn't completely killed, he should have released demonic energy. Between a living thing and a dead thing? Hidden in the depths of my soul?" Suddenly Leng Shiqi's mind flashed. His body trembled and 2 words appeared in his mind: system. Chapter 324. Leng Shiqi felt that if he guessed correctly, the other aura should be the system. The system was obviously not a product of this world. According to the language of his previous world, the system should be called artificial intelligence. That was why Nine Leaves said that its aura was between a living thing and an inanimate object. Leng Shiqi's soul had crossed over. Since he could open the system, it meant that the system was indeed hidden in the depths of his soul. In addition to the system, there was also Meng Tianzong in his spiritual fantasy world. Leng Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect that if he went to the spiritual fantasy world, he would be able to gather a table of mahjong. Let's talk about Meng Tianzong first. He was an absolutely ruthless person who killed tens of thousands of disciples. Such a person hid an aura in his spiritual fantasy world. This must be Meng Tianzong's method, but Leng Shiqi couldn't do anything about it. Other than being careful, there was really no other way. Even Nine Leave could only feel a trace of Meng Tianzong's aura when he broke through. This meant that Meng Tianzong was far more powerful than Nine Leave. Even Nine Leave couldn't help with this matter. Compared to Meng Tianzong, Leng Shiqi cared more about the system. When it came to decorum, Leng Shiqi really loved and hated it. If it weren't for the system, he might have died on Blood Mist Island. How could he be where he was today? However, he had seen too many systems in his previous life. Many of the system's bound hosts had become the system's puppets, which made him wary of the system at all times. This was like Lin Ying in Shi City. Lin Ying's ring hid an evil old man. If Leng Shiqi didn't kill Lin Ying might suddenly rise up and become one of the peerless geniuses of Donglin County. He did get a lot from the evil old man, but the result was that he would probably become a tool for the evil old man's rebirth. Lin Ying's relationship with the evil old man was similar to Leng Shiqi's relationship with the system. Leng Shiqi didn't want to become a puppet, so he had been working hard to fuse spiritual techniques and techniques. He wanted to use this method to get rid of the system's shackles. Even if he were to lose his system one day, he would still have a way to survive. More importantly, if even Nine Leave could sense the system, it meant that the system was most likely in the process of awakening. What would he do when the system awoke in the future? Leng Shiqi didn't know. Suddenly he felt very confused. He just wanted to settle down in this world and live freely. However, all sorts of inexplicable things swarmed over. Whether it was Mo Ling, Nine Leave, or Meng Tianzong, they were all existences that he couldn't afford to offend. However, it seemed that they were all coveting something from him. Perhaps it was talent? Perhaps it was the future. The more Leng Shiqi thought about it, the more confused he became. Even his head started to hurt. Seeing his pained expression, Nine Leave said, "You don't have to be so distressed. It's still unknown whether this is a blessing or a curse for you. If you can devour those two auras, the benefits will be beyond your imagination. Of course, the premise is that you have enough strength." Devour? Strength? Nine Leaves' words made Leng Shiqi instantly sober up as if he had been enlightened. That's right, no matter how distressed he was, he couldn't solve the problem. It was better to increase his strength as much as possible. With strength, he would have the capital to face Meng Tianzong and the system. Just as Nine Leaves said, he could even devour Meng Tianzong and the system. Leng Shiqi closed and opened his eyes. His entire person did not change at all, but there was an additional aura around him that said that he would remain unmoved no matter what happened. In his mind, his will to pursue strength became even more firm. Nine Leaf thought to himself, 2 people actually came in without me noticing. There are quite a few people who have their eyes on this kid. However, since I found out, don't blame me for what happens next. Leng Shiqi took a deep breath and collected all his thoughts. Then he adjusted his breathing on the spot and waited until the cooldown of the fate skill was over before he directly teleported back to his room. Leng Shiqi didn't hide this from Nine Leave because he couldn't hide it even if he wanted to, unless he had to walk more than 100 kilometers back to Lanqi City by himself. He arrived in Lanqi City in an instant. Nine Leave exclaimed, "Teleportation? No, when did you have such an ability? Even a powerhouse in the Divine Origin realm can't do that." Leng Shiqi explained, "This is the power I obtained from the aura hidden in the depths of my soul. However, there are also many restrictions." "I see," Nine Leave said indifferently, but her tone was a little meaningful. Leng Shiqi returned to his room. He first carefully checked the door and found that there were no traces of it being moved. This meant that no one had entered his room during the day he was gone. However, he wasn't sure if anyone had come to look for him. Then, as usual, Nine Leave's soul body entered Leng Shiqi's spiritual fantasy realm while her body was stored in the system space. Leng Shiqi sorted out his thoughts and decided to start his plan. He shouted, "Men." Someone immediately pushed the door open and came in. It was Wei Guan. He bowed and said, "Sir." Leng Shiqi looked at Wei Guan's expression and didn't find anything unusual. It seemed that he hadn't left during this time. "Go and inform the 3 Dark Lightning envoys to meet me in the meeting hall in 15 minutes. "Yes." 15 minutes later, Leng Shiqi and the other 3 gathered in the meeting hall. Leng Shiqi sat on a jade chair and said, "Today I have 2 things to tell you. First, you must keep a close eye on the Du family. If there's any movement, you must inform me immediately. Second, spread the news and tell all the Dark Lightning envoys to pay attention to the surrounding cities for people smuggling refined iron." Xiao Qian and the other 2 knew that Leng Shiqi was preparing to make a move on the Du family. They said simultaneously, "This humble one obeys." Just as they were about to leave, someone reported, "Sir, Commander Su Ji of Lanqi City's city guards requests an audience." "Su Ji wants to see me?" Leng Shiqi was also a bit surprised. He had never met this Su Ji before and had no interactions with him. What did he want? But since he came, he obviously couldn't refuse him. "Invite him in." Qiu Qing rolled his eyes and said, "Sir, this Su Ji is at the early stage of the spirit aperture realm. He's a bit stingy. I'm afraid he didn't come here for anything good." Leng Shiqi nodded slightly. Not long after, a tall and sturdy middle-aged man with a square face and silver armor walked in. Leng Shiqi cupped his fists and said, "Commander Su, I've heard a lot about you. Please sit." Su Ji said, "Sir Lu is too polite." He sat down without any trace of politeness and said, "The 3 of you can leave." As soon as these words were spoken, Qiu Cheng and the others frowned, and they said in their hearts, "Isn't this Su Ji a bit too arrogant?" Leng Shiqi chuckled. Chapter 325. Su Ji's actions made Leng Shiqi look bad. This was Dark Thunder Manor. What was the meaning of him, the commander of the city guards, coming here and pointing fingers at the Dark Thunder envoy in front of Leng Shiqi? In fact, Su Ji was also testing Leng Shiqi. He wanted to see how Leng Shiqi would react. Would he silently endure it or would he lose his temper? But Su Ji never thought that Leng Shiqi would actually laugh. In terms of cultivation, Su Ji was naturally 1 realm higher than Leng Shiqi. But in terms of status, Leng Shiqi was the supervisor of several cities, while Su Ji was only the commander of Lanqi City's city guards. Speaking of which, Leng Shiqi could be considered half of Su Ji's superior, but they weren't in the same system. Su Ji humiliated Leng Shiqi in front of everyone, yet he still laughed? Su Ji couldn't figure out Leng Shiqi's thoughts. Leng Shiqi chuckled. "Didn't you 3 hear? Commander Su asked you to leave. Alright, if you have time you can take a look around the city guards." At this point, Leng Shiqi glanced at Su Ji. Who knows, there might be people in the city guards who break the law. Su Ji's expression became unnatural. He knew that Leng Shiqi was using his authority to suppress him. But the Dark Thunder envoy did have the right to supervise the city guards. Xiao Qian and the others really did leave, looking like they were going to carry out their orders. This time, Su Ji was a little embarrassed. He originally wanted to test Leng Shiqi, but in the end he embarrassed himself. He couldn't help but feel a little angry in his heart. He coughed dryly. "I did come here to discuss something important. It's best if you and I know each other." Leng Shiqi was also secretly guessing Su Ji's thoughts, but he couldn't figure out what Su Ji wanted to do. He said, "Commander Su, if you have something to say, just say it." Su Ji clapped his hands and said, "All right, Lord Lu is straightforward. There's no one else here either, so this Su will say it directly. I've heard that Lord Lu is secretly supporting a few big families to do some small business. I don't know if this is true or not." Leng Shiqi obviously knew what this small business meant, but he immediately pulled a long face and said with some anger in his voice, "This is pure nonsense. Where did great Commander Su hear this news? Humph, I don't know which rascal dares to slander the Dark Thunder Guards. I'm afraid he's tired of living." At the same time, Leng Shiqi also understood that Su Ji wanted to interfere. Su Ji saw that Leng Shiqi refused to admit it and sneered in his heart. He said, "Lu Darren, if you don't want people to know, don't do it." Moreover, as long as something like this was done, it was impossible not to leave traces behind. At that time, if it were to accidentally reach the ears of the great supervisor, Lord Duan Chun, I'm afraid it would be difficult for Lord Lu to clean up the mess. Leng Shiqi's face darkened. "Commander Su, are you threatening me?" Su Ji shook his head and said, "No, this Su is here to help Lord Lu." "How is Commander Su going to help me?" Leng Shiqi also wanted to know how Su Ji was going to help. Su Ji said, "Those families are involved in smuggling. Even if they have Lord Lu's secret support, it is inevitable that they will be exposed. However, if we add the cover of the city guards, then it will be foolproof." Leng Shiqi was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Commander Su is right. Then what does Commander Su want?" Su Ji raised a finger. "I heard that Lord Lu wants the families to hand over 30% of the offerings every month. This Su wants 10% of that." 10%. Su Ji wanted to take a third of it? Leng Shiqi's heart gradually rose with cold killing intent. But he nodded and said, "I can promise you." When Su Ji heard this, he was stunned at first. He didn't expect Leng Shiqi to agree so easily. Leng Shiqi changed the topic. "However, I also have a condition." Su Ji felt that this was normal. "Lord Lu, please say it." "I need Commander Su to help me destroy the Du family." "Du family?" Su Ji's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Since Lord Lu can destroy the Jiang family, it shouldn't be difficult to destroy the Du family. Leng Shiqi shook his head. "Commander Su may not know, but according to my subordinates, there are other hidden experts in the Du family. If I act rashly, even if I can destroy the Du family, I will suffer heavy losses. Commander Su should know that it is not easy for us to train a qualified Dark Thunder Guard." Su Ji knew that Leng Shiqi's words were true. Every Dark Thunder Guard was strictly selected and trained. They were indeed elites and couldn't be lost. "As long as Commander Su agrees to this, I will give you 10% of the offerings." Su Ji felt that even if the Du family had hidden experts, no matter how strong they would only be in the Spirit Pulse realm. In front of his Spirit Aperture realm cultivation, they were nothing. He only hesitated for a moment before agreeing. Leng Shiqi clapped his hands and said, "Good. My subordinates have been secretly watching the Du family's every move. After a while, when I find a suitable opportunity, I will immediately send someone to inform Commander Su. However, Commander Su shouldn't reveal himself so easily. When the time comes, we will still need to disguise ourselves. As long as we destroy the Du family, you and I can silently make a fortune." At first, Su Ji felt that it was a bit troublesome. In his opinion, directly destroying the Du family would be enough. However, Leng Shiqi was right. His identity as the commander of the city guards was very sensitive and couldn't be casually exposed. "In that case, I will wait for Lord Lu's good news," Su Ji said as he stood up. It seemed that he had the intention to leave. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Leng Shiqi took out a token and said, "This is a token. If there is any news, I will send someone with this token to inform Commander Su." "That is good. I will take my leave. I will see Commander Su out." After Leng Shiqi sent Su Ji out the door, he looked at his departing figure with a strange look in his eyes. It was the look of someone looking at a dead man. 3 days later, Leng Shiqi received a report from his subordinates. It said that Du Hachang had secretly left the city with 2 trusted aides. The head of the family had secretly left the city? There must be something fishy. Leng Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Du Hachang was deliberately luring him out. If he hadn't heard the conversation between Li Xianyang and Du Hachang, he would definitely have thought that there was something fishy and secretly followed them. He sneered, "You are luring the snake out of its hole. Aren't I doing the same? Someone call Pang Yuan over." Not long after, Pang Yuan arrived. Leng Shiqi handed him a token and a small package. "Thousand Face, give these things to Su Ji." Remember, you must not let anyone know. Thousand Face smiled. Don't worry, Lord. This subordinate is the best at this. Lung Shichi's fingers kept tapping on the jade chair. He went through the plan in his mind from beginning to end. After making sure that he didn't miss anything, he put on a disguise and quietly left the city. The plan began. Chapter 326. In a small forest a dozen miles away from Misty City, two sneaky figures met. Lord Lu, I don't think there's a need to be so cautious. The person who spoke was wearing an ordinary Dark Thunder Guard's uniform. He was the commander of the city guards, Su Ji. Lung Shichi said, there's nothing wrong with being careful. Du Hachang must be up to something by sneaking out of the city. We should follow him for a while and see what he's up to. Su Ji frowned slightly. You Dark Thunder Guards are too troublesome. Are you the only one who came this time? Lung Shichi replied, with Commander Su here, we can fight against thousands of soldiers. That's true. Su Ji smiled proudly. In his opinion, Du Hachang and his two trusted aides might be in the spiritual pulse realm, but he could kill them with a flip of his hand. Lung Shichi and Su Ji followed Du Hachang's group until late at night when Du Hachang walked into a valley. This valley was remote and uninhabited. It was a good place to kill. At this moment, Su Ji was getting impatient. He had to personally train the city guards every morning. He had to rush back before dawn. Su Ji said, Lord Lu, I think this place is good. Don't follow them anymore. Just kill them and the Du family will be half dead. Lung Shichi purposely hesitated for a while before agreeing. Then the two of them sneaked into the valley. Soon they saw Du Hachang's group standing at the side as if they were waiting for someone. Lung Shichi and Su Ji looked at each other and nodded. Then Lung Shichi pulled out his inky jade sword and jumped out. Under the cover of the night, the inky jade sword stabbed at Du Hachang. However, Du Hachang was already prepared. The three of them pointed their fingers at the same time. Green, blue and purple finger forces burst out and instantly shattered Lung Shichi's inky jade sword. Lung Shichi moved his inky jade sword and slashed out majestic inky jade sword to dissolve the three finger forces. Du Hachang smiled. Lu Xingji, you really came. Lung Shichi's expression changed. Did you lure me here on purpose? Haha, Lu Xingji, today is the day you die. Do it. The moment Du Hachang's voice fell, the three closed in at the same time. Lung Shichi shouted in a low voice, Do you think I will come alone? Du Hachang said, Of course not. No matter how many people you bring here today, this will be your burial ground. Lung Shichi snorted, What arrogance! Commander Su, please show yourself. Oh, Commander Su. Du Hachang's heart also tightened. At this moment, a burly figure walked out from the darkness. Seeing this person, Du Hachang immediately exclaimed, City Guard Grand Commander Su Ji. Su Ji crossed his arms and said with a sneer on his face, Just now you said that no matter how many people there are, they will all be buried here. I will return those words to you. Su Ji formed a blade with his palm. A destructive blade aura suddenly appeared and lit up the entire night sky. With a wave of the blade aura, it instantly tore apart the night sky and turned into a long waterfall that was about to tear Du Hachang and the others apart. However, at this moment, the night sky suddenly shone with a dazzling radiance like the sun. The appearance of the radiance actually directly melted Su Ji's blade aura. Su Ji was immediately shocked. He focused and said, Who are you? I am the Grand Commander of Lanqi City Guard. Please show yourself. He clearly felt that the person's cultivation was far above his. At the very least, he was an expert in the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. Su Ji? Never heard of you. A voice sounded, but it made Su Ji's expression even more unsightly. When the person who spoke walked over, Su Ji's expression turned into one of shock. Li Xianyang? Xianyang sect master Li Xianyang. Why are you here? Li Xianyang didn't intend to answer his question. He only said indifferently, Just now you said that everyone here will be buried here. I will return those words to you. Before Li Xianyang finished speaking, a ball of light like the sun suddenly lit up. He held the sun in his hand and it rippled with strange ripples. The sun like palm fell with a loud rumble. Not only did it devour the night sky, it also wanted to devour Su Ji. A broadsword appeared in Su Ji's hand. The surrounding spiritual energy was madly absorbed into the sword. Soon after, the sword slashed out. It was actually a heavenly wolf howling at the moon. The image of a huge wolf flashed behind Su Ji and the sharp blade aura slashed towards the sun. However, although the heavenly wolf howling at the moon, it couldn't resist the 9 heavens Sunday. The blade aura only weakened the huge sun by a bit before it was completely destroyed. Su Ji swung his sword 3 times in succession before he could barely block this attack. His aura was actually starting to become a little chaotic. The difference between the early stage of the Spirit Aperture Realm and the late stage of the Spirit Aperture Realm was actually so great. Su Ji's heart instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. He never would have thought that chasing after 3 spiritual pulse stage cultivators would lead to a spiritual aperture stage late stage expert. And a sect master at that. Su Ji wasn't stupid. He already faintly guessed that this was a conspiracy, but it wasn't directed at him. If he hadn't gone to find Leng Shiqi, then the only one here would be Leng Shiqi himself. In other words, everything was directed at Leng Shiqi, and he had been dragged into it. Su Ji knew that he wasn't Li Xuanyang's opponent, but he also knew that Li Xianyang definitely wouldn't let him leave. Now, his only way out was to do everything he could to escape with his life. However, Li Xianyang didn't hide the dense killing intent in his eyes. Su Ji's appearance was indeed outside of their plan, but since he had run out, then they would deal with him together. Li Xianyang didn't say anything and slapped out again. At the same time, Du Hachang and the other 2 joined forces to attack Leng Shiqi. The other 2 were also high-level members of the Du family, Du Hakai and Du Helen. Both of them were at the middle stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. With the 3 of them attacking at the same time, Leng Shiqi immediately fell into a disadvantage. However, Leng Shiqi also noticed that the 3's attacks were fierce, but they didn't have any killing intent. They seemed to only want to restrain him. Because for Du Hachang, Leng Shiqi was more useful alive than dead. Leng Shiqi took the time to look at Su Ji. At this moment, Su Ji was no longer at a disadvantage, but was completely at a disadvantage. It was to the extent that if this continued, he would most likely die here. However, all of this was within his expectations. The reason why he agreed to Su Ji's request 3 days ago was to use this method to get rid of Su Ji. Next, he began to struggle against the 3's combined attacks. Not long after, a few wounds appeared on Leng Shiqi's body, while Su Ji was covered in blood. Li Xuanyang's body glowed with a golden light as he slammed down with his palm. Endless spirit energy tore through the night sky and shattered everything. Of course, this included Su Ji. Before Su Ji died, he was filled with regret. He regretted coveting Leng Shiqi's resources and causing him to die in the wilderness. His death was worthless. Chapter 327. Su Ji, the commander of Lanqi city guards, had died just like that. He could only blame his opponent for being too strong. Su Ji's cultivation was much weaker than Li Xuanyang's. Moreover, Li Xianyang was the sect master and the entire sect's resources were concentrated on him alone. Therefore, Li Xuanyang's battle prowess far surpassed cultivators of the same level, not to mention Su Ji. In the end, Su Ji didn't even have the chance to escape before he was killed by Li Xianyang. Seeing Su Ji die, Du Hichang and the other 2 also stopped. The 3 of them surrounded Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi secretly absorbed Su Ji's remnant soul. The soul force of a Spirit Aperture Realm expert was a great supplement. Not only did it increase his mental power and physical strength, it even healed his injuries. At this time, Li Xianyang walked over and said, "Do you know who I am?" Who doesn't know Li Xianyang, the sect master of the Profound Yang sect? Leng Shiqi said indifferently. Then you should know that you have no ability to resist in front of me. That's right. Li Xianyang saw that Leng Shiqi didn't show any fear and couldn't help but praise. You only suffered light injuries under the siege of 3 Spirit Aperture's realm cultivators. You can still be so calm in front of me. I have to say that you're quite a character. It's a pity to kill you so easily. Leng Shiqi was surprised. What, sect master Li wants to let me go? Du Hachang continued, of course we won't let you go. However, I'm afraid you'll become a puppet in our hands in the future. Leng Shiqi showed a panicked expression and said, what are you doing? Du Hachang saw Leng Shiqi's expression and felt a burst of joy in his heart. Li Xianyang took out a palm-sized box from his mustard seed bag and opened it. Inside was a thumb-sized bug that emitted a faint glow. This is the heart-controlling goo unique to Zhulu country. In terms of rank, it's a 6th-tier treasure. It's a bit of a waste to use it on you, but since you're a supervisor, we'll be able to move the refined iron around as we please, Du Hachang said with a smile. Leng Shiqi gritted his teeth. Zhulugua. Fine iron. Good Du Hichang, good Profound Yang sect, so you guys actually dared to smuggle refined iron to Zhulu country. This kind of action is enough for you to die 100 times over. Lord Lu, you speak so righteously. Aren't you also secretly supporting the other clans in their smuggling business? Once the mind-controlling goo is planted in your body, you will completely lose your own consciousness. Even if something happens, you, the supervisor, will have to take the blame for us. Ah. Du Hachang laughed crazily. He had been suffering day and night for the past few days, and he was also afraid. He was afraid that the Leng Shiqi would do the same thing he did to the Jiang family and come knocking on his door unreasonably. At this moment, seeing that the situation was set, he finally released the resentment that he had been suppressing for a long time. All right, cut the crap. Li Xianyang said, I will plant the mind-controlling goo in him. You guys patrol the surroundings and don't disturb me. Du Hechang and the other two replied, yes. Li Xianyang picked up the mind-controlling goo. The goo looked beautiful and delicate, more like a work of art than a terrible goo poison. Li Xianyang said with a gloomy face, Lu Xingji, you have no one to blame but yourself for being unlucky enough to meet me. Then Li Xianyang closed his 5 fingers, and several golden rays turned into ropes that firmly bound Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi secretly struggled a few times and found that the golden ropes were very tough. Even if he used all his strength, he might not be able to break them. Li Xianyang said, don't waste your strength. Become my puppet. As he spoke, he gently cut a deep wound in Leng Shiqi's heart with his finger. He said with slight surprise, oh, your body is actually so strong. That's good. The more vigorous your qi and blood, the better you can raise the mind-controlling goo. Li Xianyang added a bit more strength and cut the wound even deeper. He could even see the beating heart inside. Strangely, Leng Shiqi did not bleed at all. It was because the golden rays flowing around the edge of the wound prevented blood from flowing out. Li Xianyang did not want Leng Shiqi to bleed to death. Then he put the mind-controlling goo into Leng Shiqi's heart. He muttered an incantation that Leng Shiqi could not understand, and Leng Shiqi felt his heart being bitten. In fact, it was indeed so. The mind-controlling goo bit a small hole in Leng Shiqi's heart, and then it drilled into the small hole. Leng Shiqi suddenly felt his consciousness become blurry. His mind was in chaos as if he had drunk a lot of wine. Li Xuanyang's incantation continued. After a while, Leng Shiqi's eyes became blurry and then returned to normal. However, at this time, Leng Shiqi's eyes were very empty without a trace of color. Li Xuanyang's face was a little pale. He did not know goo techniques. He purely used his powerful cultivation to activate goo techniques, so the consumption was relatively high. When he saw Leng Shiqi's appearance, he still smiled. At this time, Du Hechang came over. Sect Master Li, did you succeed? Li Xianyang nodded and said, not bad, watch carefully. Then he chanted an incantation and Leng Shiqi's eyes appeared again. After he woke up, he said to Li Xianyang, Master. Du Hechang saw this and laughed. There is actually such a magical goo technique in the world. Wonderful, wonderful. Li Xianyang said, I will give you the incantation to control the spirit cultivator later. In the future he will be under your control. However, you must not complicate matters. Just control him and help us gather a large amount of fine iron as soon as possible. Understood, this Du understands. Du Hechang nodded his head. There is one more thing, Li Xianyang said. Su Ji came out with Lu Xingji. He might have some kind of deal with the City Lord Manor. You must ask around and fool them about Su Ji's death. Sect Master Li, don't worry. We now have a supervisor in our hands. Great things can be expected. Li Xianyang laughed. Haha, as long as this is successful, I will help Patriarch Du break through to the Spirit Aperture realm. I won't go back on my word. Du Hechang was also laughing so hard that his mouth was almost crooked. Then Li Xianyang passed the incantation to Du Hechang. He only managed to learn it when dawn was about to break. Du Hechang gave it a try and said, Lu Xingji, when we return, order all the Dark Lightning Guards to stop monitoring the transportation of fine iron. Leng Shiqi said stiffly, yes, master. Du Hechang changed the incantation, and Leng Shiqi returned to normal. Then he left on his own. Du Hechang and the other two returned to Lanqi City through another path. What they didn't know was that not long after Leng Shiqi left, his body emitted a green glow. Nine Leaves' voice sounded, all right, stop pretending. Chapter 328. Leng Shiqi suddenly stopped in his tracks. He clutched his chest and his eyes were filled with a sinister glint. He took the risk and deliberately let Li Xianyang plant the mind-controlling goo in his body so that he could lurk around them. This way he could collect evidence of their crimes and wait for an opportunity to find out what they were going to do next. As for the mind-controlling goo, this goo worm was indeed strange. From a certain point of view, it could control a person's mind, and the person being controlled wouldn't know that they had become a puppet. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful this goo worm was, it was nothing in front of the rank 7 9 Leaf. After Leng Shiqi left, 9 Leaf had already swallowed most of the mind-controlling goo's soul. In other words, the mind-controlling goo was in a half-dead state, but it was still in Leng Shiqi's heart. This way, Li Xianyang and Du Hechang could sense the mind-controlling goo, but they couldn't really control Leng Shiqi. At this time, a purple light flew out from between Leng Shiqi's eyebrows and fell into his hand. It was a purple gem-like thing. 9 Leaf said, "Everything that happened just now has been recorded here." Leng Shiqi was overjoyed. This was one of 9 Leaf's secret techniques. It could record all images and sounds for a period of time. He watched it carefully. This video recorded the incident where Li Xianyang and Du Hechang self-destructed and smuggled refined iron to sell to Zhu Lugua. This could be considered as solid evidence. However, this wasn't enough to take down a third-rate faction. It would be best if he could catch them red-handed. That would be a great contribution. Then Leng Shiqi used the Fate skill and teleported back to his room in Dark Thunder Manor. Then he went back to his room through the ground. The reason why he was so troublesome was because there was another Leng Shiqi in the room. The other Leng Shiqi was naturally Thousand Face. Leng Shiqi went out for two purposes. One of them was to use Li Xianyang to get rid of Su Ji. Only a few people knew that Su Ji had left the city. Of course, these people would not leak it out. His body had also been disposed of. If nothing unexpected happened, no one would know that he was dead for a very long time. At most, he could only be considered missing. However, the sudden disappearance of the commander of the city guards, a spirit aperture realm expert, was not a small matter. The city lord's mansion would definitely send people to investigate. Su Ji had come to Leng Shiqi a few days ago, but he disappeared not long after. Leng Shiqi was more or less suspicious. Therefore he had to have an alibi. Thus, Leng Shiqi instructed Thousand Face to disguise himself as him after delivering the letter. Furthermore, Thousand Face had to deal with the affairs under the light of the lantern. From time to time, Thousand Face would call for someone to deliver some tea, pretending that he had always been at Dark Thunder Manor. When Thousand Face saw Leng Shiqi return, he didn't say anything. He just nodded and quietly left. Leng Shiqi sat down and rested for a while. Too many things had happened in one night, but fortunately, everything was still under his control. Now he needed to cooperate with Du Hechang to collect large amounts of fine iron. When the sun rose, Leng Shiqi called the 3 Dark Thunder envoys to the meeting hall. Qiao Qian, Qiu Cheng and Pang Yuan bowed. "Greetings, sir." Qiao Qian and Qiu Cheng were a bit confused. It was still early in the morning, yet Leng Shiqi had called them over. Was there something urgent? Unexpectedly, Leng Shiqi opened his mouth and said, "From today onwards, withdraw all surveillance of the Du clan." Ahem. This time they were not confused but shocked. 2 days ago he said that he would constantly monitor the Du clan's every move. Now he was suddenly giving up? However, they didn't ask any questions. They all nodded in agreement. Leng Shiqi asked, "I mentioned last time. Are there people in the surrounding cities transporting fine iron?" Qiu Cheng was in charge of intelligence, so he knew the situation in the other cities the best. He replied, "Sir, I didn't know before investigating. After investigating, there were actually many clans secretly transporting fine iron. However, this humble one is curious. Fine iron itself isn't very profitable, and the imperial court has repeatedly forbidden private sales. Why are they still doing this?" Leng Shiqi said, "Pass down the order. Have the subordinates continue to monitor and collect evidence, but don't do anything. If possible, help them secretly transport fine iron." Qiu Cheng's doubts deepened, but he seemed to feel that this matter wasn't simple. Qiao Qian's body trembled slightly. An idea appeared in his mind. He muttered, "Casting a long line to catch a big fish." Leng Shiqi heard this and looked at Qiao Qian with praise. Qiu Cheng also realized that there were people secretly transporting fine iron in the surrounding cities. This couldn't be a coincidence. But why would they do this? Where did the fine iron go in the end? There must be a conspiracy behind this. Catching a few clans secretly transporting fine iron wouldn't be much of a merit. If they could catch a bunch of the masterminds, it would be a great merit. Qiu Cheng hated that he wasn't as smart as Qiao Qian. Leng Shiqi asked again, "In the past, what should we do if we encounter trouble that we can't solve?" A Dark Thunder Manor like Lanqi cities was usually led by a Spirit Aperture Realm supervisor, a few Spirit Pulse Realm Dark Thunder envoys, and dozens of spirit transformation realm Dark Thunder Guards. This kind of strength was equivalent to 50% of a third-rate sect. It wasn't weak. However, Leng Shiqi was dealing with a third-rate sect. He definitely wasn't a match for Li Xianyang, so how could he take down the profound Yang sect? Qiu Qing was the most senior of the three. He didn't guess Leng Shiqi's intention just now, so he hurriedly said, "Sir, we did encounter this kind of situation before. Generally speaking, we can directly report it to Sir Duan Chun, who is in charge of the North County." Leng Shiqi tapped his fingers. "If we report it to Sir Duan Chun, we won't get much credit. Is there any other way?" This. Qiu Qing hesitated and said, "It's not that there is no other way. Our Dark Thunder Guards have more power. Sir, you can actually mobilize some city guards. In addition, our Discipline Commission in the North County is also within the scope of mobilization. However, the rules are the rules, but it's hard to say whether they will contribute or not." City Guards, Discipline Commission. Leng Shiqi muttered these two names. He was in urgent need of a large number of people now, but the Discipline Commission was the first to be ruled out by him. The Discipline Commission was different from the Dark Thunder Guards. There was only one branch of the Discipline Commission in the entire North County. There were several spirit astral realm experts in the branch, which deterred the spirit cultivation sects in the North County. As a spirit pull stage supervisor, the chances of him being able to recruit people were very slim. Thus, he could only set his sights on the city guards. Chapter 329. In the Misty Chi City Lord Manor, the City Lord, Sun Gang, was listening to his subordinates report with a displeased expression. He was displeased because the commander of the city guards, Su Ji, didn't show up today. According to the City Lord Manor's rules, Su Ji had to train the city guards every morning and arrange for them to patrol the city. However, it was already late in the morning and Su Ji still hadn't shown up. He didn't even look for Su Ji in his residence. Where did this Su Ji go? Sun Gang's heart was filled with both doubt and anger. He said, "Tell me Su Ji's recent whereabouts." The person beside him, who was the vice commander of the city guards, Ning Xiu, took out a report. "This subordinate has already prepared it. Please take a look, City Lord." Sun Gang looked at Ning Xiu meaningfully and took the report. When he saw that Su Ji had gone to look for Leng Shiqi, he frowned. He thought to himself, Su Ji still went to provoke Lu Xingji. Could it be related to Lu Xingji that he didn't show up today? Just as he was thinking, a servant outside reported, "City Lord, the Dark Thunder Guard supervisor, Sir Lu, requests an audience." Chem? Sun Gang was just thinking about Leng Shiqi, and now Leng Shiqi came to his door. Could it be that this matter really had something to do with him? Sun Gang said, "Please go to the main hall." "Yes." "Oh, Ningxiu. Su Ji isn't here, so I'll leave the city guards to you for the time being. I'll go see the guest first." Ningxiu was delighted and bowed. This subordinate will take his leave. Not long after Leng Shiqi sat down in the main hall of the City Lord Manor, Sun Gang walked in. "I'm ashamed to have kept Sir Lu waiting." Misty Chi City Lord Manor was much stronger than Dark Thunder Manor, but in terms of official ranks, Leng Shiqi and Sun Gang were on the same level. However, as the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guard, Leng Shiqi had the right to supervise the City Lord Manor, so Sun Gang had to be polite when he saw Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi's first impression of Sun Gang was that he was an old fox. He was much harder to deal with than Su Ji. The two of them praised each other for a while. Seeing that it was about time, Sun Gang asked, "Lord Lu is supervising the surrounding cities and must be very busy. May I know why you are here today?" Leng Shiqi smiled and said, "You flatter me. I don't visit you without a reason. Today I have something to ask of you." "What is it that even the Dark Thunder Guards can't solve?" "This Sun is willing to hear the details," Sun Gang said with a serious expression. Leng Shiqi also said seriously, "Actually, I'm here to ask City Lord Sun to help me deal with someone." "Who is it?" "Li Xianyang, sect leader of the Xianyang sect." Leng Shiqi said word by word. Sun Gang was trying to guess Leng Shiqi's intentions. Li Xianyang is the sect master of a third-rate sect. Does Lord Lu want to deal with him? Leng Shiqi understood Sun Gang's meaning. The Xianyang sect secretly colluded with other countries and collected a large amount of iron that is forbidden by the dynasty. I'm preparing to capture them. I'm ashamed to say that Li Xianyang is a spirit aperture realm late-stage expert. No one in my Dark Thunder residence can deal with him. That's why I'm here to ask City Lord Sun to help. Sun Gang heard this and asked, Lord Lu wants to deal with a spirit cultivator sect. This is not a small matter. Does Lord Lu have evidence? The evidence is conclusive, Leng Shiqi said with certainty. Then this Sun is even more confused. If this is true, Lord Lu only needs to report this to the North Region's Great Supervisor Duan Chun. He will naturally deal with the Shenyang sect. Leng Shiqi didn't hide his thoughts and said directly, Lord Duan Chun can indeed deal with the Shenyang sect easily. Then I won't be able to get much credit. At this time, Sun Gang also saw the ambition in Leng Shiqi, but he said, Lord Lu is right. But then again, this matter has nothing to do with the City Lord Mansion. To say the least, even if I help Lord Lu to deal with Li Shenyang, in the end the credit will still be yours. Our City Lord Mansion won't get any benefits. Leng Shiqi knew this would happen. City Lord Sun, may I ask who is stronger between you and Li Shenyang? It was reasonable to say that this kind of question was impolite, but Sun Gang knew that Leng Shiqi must have a reason to ask this. He pondered for a moment and said, Li Shenyang and I are both at the 8th level of Spirit Aperture Realm. But as the leader of a sect, he must enjoy more resources than me. In terms of fighting power, I'm afraid he is stronger than me. Sun Gang didn't hide it and said it honestly. This point alone showed that his breadth of mind was incomparable to ordinary people. Leng Shiqi said, May I ask how long it will take for City Lord Sun to break through to Gang Spirit Realm? Gang Spirit Realm. Hearing these 3 words, a trace of loneliness flashed through Sun Gang's eyes. This time he didn't answer but asked back, Why do you say so, Lord Lu? Leng Shiqi chuckled, If City Lord Sun helps me to deal with Li Shenyang, I have a way to get the first Origin 9 Aperture Crystal for City Lord Sun. What? Even Sun Gang, the City Lord at the late stage of Spirit Aperture Realm, was surprised when he heard the words First Origin 9 Aperture Crystal. He looked straight at Leng Shiqi and asked in a deep voice, Can Lord Lu really get the First Origin 9 Aperture Crystal? Leng Shiqi met Sun Gang's eyes and said, Absolutely. Good. I promise you. Sun Gang finally couldn't refuse the opportunity to break through to Gang Spirit Realm, so he agreed. However, I will only deal with Li Shenyang and I won't care about the others. Besides, this is my personal matter, and it has nothing to do with the City Lord Mansion or the City Guard. I understand. When I'm ready to take action, I will send someone to inform City Lord Sun. Goodbye. Leng Shiqi cupped his hands and strode out of the City Lord Mansion. It was worth it to win over Sun Gang this time. Although he was still far less powerful than Shenyang sect, he had a way to lure Li Shenyang out. At that time, it was not impossible to destroy Shenyang sect by attacking them one by one. After returning to the Dark Thunder Mansion, Leng Shiqi continued his closed-door training after explaining everything. He still had more than 30 spiritual skills to deduce. Moreover, the plan against Shenyang sect needed time to be carried out slowly. He could take advantage of this time to improve his strength as much as possible. The more powerful he was, the smoother the plan would be. In the blink of an eye, 1 month had passed. At this time, Leng Shiqi was soaking in a large tub filled with light brown liquid. Leng Shiqi's body was surrounded by a faint devil qi. The devil qi was constantly absorbing the power in the liquid and integrating it into Leng Shiqi's body. He was using the medicinal bath to strengthen his body. At the same time, he was also running the Evil 9 Secret Beast blood record to cultivate his spiritual energy. In his spiritual fantasy world, his spiritual body was also deducing his spiritual energy. He was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. However, at this moment he suddenly felt the poisonous heart control insect in his heart move. Chapter 330. Leng Shiqi immediately stopped cultivating when he felt the heart-controlling goo in his body move. He knew that Du Hachang was contacting him. Coincidentally, there was a knock on his door at the same time. He knew that the time was ripe. Leng Shiqi removed the soul-splitting technique and put on his clothes. This month of closed-door cultivation had benefited him greatly. First, in terms of cultivation, he had several top cultivation techniques. Coupled with the 3rd cycle spirit melting pill and spirit stones, he had touched the bottleneck of the 7th level of the spirit vein realm. Unfortunately, the gap between the 6th and 7th level was huge. It was not something that could be broken through in a short period of time. In addition to his cultivation, the strength of his body had also been strengthened by the continuous use of good quality medicinal baths. In terms of strength, his current physical strength was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the 3rd level of the spirit transformation realm. In addition, his mental strength had been absorbing the power of the Heaven Demon Spirit Crystal. He had also been deducing spirit techniques and was constantly growing. In terms of spirit techniques, he had also gained a lot in this month. He had already comprehended a unique technique, but he had further integrated it with the formation-breaking cross spear. Wuxiang had given him a spear technique called the Golden Scale Spear Technique. He had integrated this technique into the formation-breaking cross spear, becoming an even more powerful Golden Scale cross spear. In addition, he had made breakthroughs in his movement and claw techniques. Although his cultivation did not have a major breakthrough, his strength had improved. After tidying up, Leng Shiqi opened the door. Qiu Qing and the other two were standing outside. Seeing Leng Shiqi come out, Qiu Qing said, "Sir, the 6 families have sent this month's offerings, but they must see you personally." Qiao Qian said excitedly, "My lord, the offerings from these 6 clans are at least twice as much as the previous 9 clans combined." Leng Shiqi nodded, "I know, bring them to the meeting room." Not long after, the patriarchs of the 6 families met Leng Shiqi in the meeting hall. Their faces were all flushed with joy. Zhongqing was the first to speak. "Lord Lu, you really are our lucky star. In the past month, our profits have tripled compared to the past. This was just the beginning. There would definitely be more and more in the future. We really don't know how to repay you." Leng Shiqi secretly laughed. These people were now begging him to come. Now that they had gotten benefits, they were afraid that Leng Shiqi would kick them out. He raised his hand and said, "Everyone, there's no need to be like this. We're just mutually benefiting each other. As long as you abide by my rules, you'll enjoy endless glory and wealth." Yes. Lord Lu is right. In the future, as long as Lord Lu has any orders, we will definitely do our best to fulfill them. Leng Shiqi raised his eyebrows slightly. "Oh, is that so?" The 6 patriarchs all said in unison, "Of course." "Very good." Leng Shiqi said, "In the next 2 days, each family will send 1 Spirit Pulse Realm Cultivator and 10 Spirit Transformation Realm Cultivators to lend them to me." The 6 patriarchs were slightly stunned. They were just being polite. Who knew that Leng Shiqi really had something to say? And he wanted them as soon as he opened his mouth? Even the weakest had to be at the Spirit Transformation Realm? The Wang family elder hesitated for a moment, then said righteously, "Lord Lu, our Wang family only has 1 Spirit Pulse Realm Cultivator left. If Lord Lu has any orders, this old man will not be afraid even if his bones are crushed." Zhongqing also reacted quickly and hurriedly said, "This Zhong is the same." When the others saw that even the Wang family elder had agreed, what reason did they have to disagree? Moreover, they didn't dare to disagree. Leng Shiqi said, "Everyone, don't worry. Your people won't do anything dangerous. After this, however many people you send will return. Not a single one will be missing." At this moment, the few of them felt relieved and agreed one after another. After Leng Shiqi sent these people away, he called Qiao Qian and the other 2 over and ordered them to secretly gather the scattered Dark Thunder Guards back. After dealing with these matters, Leng Shiqi quietly sneaked into the Du residence. At this moment, Du Hachang was secretly talking to a black-clothed man in the Du residence. "Patriarch Du, the sect master has given the order. The time is set to be 3 days later at Ai Ming Mountain, 100 miles away from Misty Chi City." Du Hachang frowned slightly and said, "Ai Ming Mountain? That place isn't very hidden, why choose that place? Anyways, the supervisor of Misty Chi City's Dark Thunder Manor is in our hands. As long as he makes the arrangements, nothing will go wrong." "That's true." Oh. Before Du Hachang could finish his sentence, he suddenly realized that a figure had mysteriously appeared in the room. When he saw the appearance of the person, he laughed sinisterly, "So it's our supervisor." Du Hachang chanted an incantation. Leng Shiqi immediately became expressionless and stared blankly. He said, "Go back and order the Dark Thunder Guards to not let anyone near Ai Ming Mountain for 10 days. 3 days later, you will personally lead people to guard the entrances around Ai Ming Mountain. Alright, you can go back first." Leng Shiqi said stiffly, "Yes." After returning to Dark Thunder Manor, Leng Shiqi immediately issued one order after another. All the Dark Thunder Guards, including the people of the 6 great families, were mobilized. In these 2 days, the 6 great families had sent out several caravans. This was very normal, so it didn't attract anyone's attention. But what others didn't know was that some of the caravans had secretly lost a few people midway, and these people had secretly gathered near Ai Ming Mountain. In addition, the Misty Chi City's city lord, Sun Gang, personally went out of the city to investigate the disappearance of the city guard commander Su Ji. In profound Yang sect, Li Xianyang was also making arrangements. When he heard the report from his subordinates that the plan was going well, he couldn't help but smile. Very good. Now go and inform Mr. Gill that the deal will be held in AI Ming Mountain 3 days later. Ha ha ha, first origin 9 aperture crystal, gang spirit realm, all mine, all mine. Li Xianyang laughed crazily as if the gang spirit realm was waving to him. As for Leng Shiqi, he was also negotiating with 9 Leave at this time. Senior 9 Leave, the resources sent by the 6 great families today plus half of the resources from the Du family will be the reward for helping me solve the mind-controlling bug last time. Do you think it's enough? 9 Leave said, although the quality of those resources is a little low, there are a lot of them left. Okay. Leng Shiqi said again, these families don't have any high-level resources, but Profound Yang sect definitely has some. Do you think I can't tell what you're thinking? If you want to borrow my strength, you have to give me at least half of the resources of Profound Yang sect. 9 Leave asked for half of the resources of a third-class sect. However, Leng Shiqi did not hesitate at all and readily agreed. Deal. Both Leng Shiqi and Li Xianyang were making arrangements to welcome the coming storm. Chapter 331. 3 days later, in the middle of the night, Lanqi City gradually returned to silence, but AI Ming Mountain was quite lively. Leng Shiqi led a group of dark lightning guards to guard every entrance and exit of AI Ming Mountain, forbidding anyone from entering. However, 2 groups of people were let in. One of them was Li Xianyang. Li Xianyang brought his 4 direct disciples and 20 elite disciples of the spirit transformation realm into AI Ming Mountain. The other group came from Zhulu country, led by a strangely dressed man with a large beard. This kind of person was not rare in the West Desolate Province, and could be seen in every city, so he did not attract the attention of others. He was the one who made the deal with Li Xianyang Jill. Jill and 2 other Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators entered AI Ming Mountain. His own cultivation was only at the Spirit Pulse Realm, because although the Thunderblaze dynasty had trade relations with the 6 countries of the West, they had strict requirements for the people from the 6 countries of the West. One of the most important rules was that foreigners of the Spirit Aperture Realm and above were not allowed to enter the dynasty. While restricting the cultivation of the people from the 6 countries of the West, all the city lords of the West Desolate Province were Spirit Aperture Realm experts. As a result, the 6 countries of the West would not be able to make any waves. But today Zhulu country took advantage of this loophole. Li Xianyang and Jill met at AI Ming Mountain. When Li Xianyang saw Jill, it was as if he saw the first Origin 9 aperture crystal walking towards him. He was not worried that Jill would go back on his words. The reason why he chose to make the deal at AI Ming Mountain was not only because Leng Shiqi could cover for them, but also to secretly warn Jill that this was the Thunderblaze dynasty, the territory of his Xianyang sect. If Jill dared to go back on his words, he would definitely not let him go back. The 2 did not exchange too many pleasantries, they both knew the urgency of the matter. The sooner they completed the deal, the less trouble there would be. Li Xianyang ordered his disciples to guard the surroundings while he took out more than 20 mustard seed bags from his bag. Just these mustard seed bags alone were worth a lot. Jill immediately took one of the mustard seed bags and opened it. Inside there were countless iron essences neatly stacked. He could not help but smile. Jill said in a strange accent, "Sect Leader Li, I'm very satisfied with the goods. I believe His Majesty will be very satisfied as well. This is the gift we prepared for Sect Leader Li." As Jill spoke, he took out a jade box. When he opened the jade box, a 9-colored glazed light burst out from within. Li Xianyang looked greedily at the palm-sized crystal in front of him. It was none other than the first Origin 9 aperture crystal. He took the first Origin 9 aperture crystal with trembling hands and held it tightly as if he was holding on to his future. He laughed out loud. "Ha, Mr. Jill is indeed a man of his word. Of course we Zhulu people value credibility the most," Jill said as he picked up a small pile of mustard seed bags. However, at this moment the sound of footsteps could be heard. Both of their expressions tensed up. When Li Xianyang saw that it was Leng Shiqi, he asked, "What happened?" "A caravan is camping at the foot of the mountain," Leng Shiqi said stiffly. "Caravan?" Li Xianyang and Jill looked at each other. Li Xianyang's eyes were filled with killing intent. Tonight's matter could not be leaked, otherwise he and the Profound Yang sect would fall into the abyss. Li Xianyang said, "Lead the Dark Thunder Guards and kill them all." Leng Shiqi said, "There are many of them. I can't guarantee that none will survive." Li Xianyang frowned. "Chang, Take the Spirit Transformation Realm disciples to assist the Dark Thunder Guards. Do not let a single one escape." "Yes, Master." A late-stage Spirit Pulse Realm cultivator nodded. Then he led the 20 Spirit Transformation Realm disciples of the Profound Yang sect down the mountain with Lung Shichi. Jill said, "Sect Leader Li, there won't be any accidents, right?" "Don't worry, Mr. Jill. It's just a small problem. I'm sure it won't take long to deal with." Li Xianyang obviously didn't put the caravan in his eyes. "But your people will inevitably leave traces behind. Furthermore, it's not convenient for us to leave now." Jill seemed to be a little anxious. Li Xianyang smiled. "Mr. Jill, do you know who that person was?" "Who was it?" Li Xianyang explained, "That's the Dark Thunder Guard supervisor in charge of inspecting the vicinity of Mistchi City, Lu Xingji. With him here he will clean up all traces here. Furthermore, no one will investigate this matter." "Sect Leader Li can actually control the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guards?" Jill exclaimed. "Aha, it's all thanks to the mind-controlling voodoo that Mr. Jill gave me. The mind-controlling voodoo is just a tool. It's truly admirable that Sect Leader Li can use it to control a supervisor. No wonder Sect Leader Li can collect the refined iron so smoothly." As the two spoke, they heard sounds of fighting coming from the foot of the mountain, as well as some fluctuations of spiritual energy. It seemed that their people were already silencing the poor caravan. After a while, the commotion below became quieter. Li Xianyang guessed that it should be over. Not long after, a group of 22 people came over. Li Xianyang smiled when he saw that other than Leng Shichi, the rest were all wearing the Profound Yang sect's uniform. Leng Shichi stepped forward and said, "Everyone has been silenced." Very good." Li Xianyang nodded in satisfaction. At this time, Chang walked up to Li Xianyang and opened his mouth as if he had something to say. Li Xianyang said, "Speak." Chang leaned close to Li Xianyang's ear and said, "Go to hell." The moment that Chang opened his mouth, he threw a punch forward. As he punched out, fiery light instantly rose up in the dark night, condensing into a cloud of fire, burning the heaven and earth. How could Li Xianyang have imagined that his eldest personal disciple would sneak up on him? Moreover, his disciple Chang didn't practice fist techniques at all. This Chang was a fake. Even more frightening was that the power of this fiery fist energy was no less than his. This meant that the attacker's cultivation was on par with his. However, Chang was too close to him. Li Xianyang had no time to counterattack, and could only release a golden glow from his body to block the attack. The fiery cloud instantly tore through Li Xianyang's golden glow, and the fiery fist energy slammed into his body. Even though Li Xianyang was at the 8th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm, he hadn't practiced any body-refining techniques. Moreover, he wasn't young. After being ambushed by Sun Gang, who was disguised as Chang, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and was heavily injured. At the same time, the other 21 people split into two. Half went to kill the remaining 3 Spirit Pulse Realm disciples, while the other half went to attack Jill and the other 2. Among them, Lung Shichi took the lead and unsheathed his inky jade sword. With a tyrannical inky sword light, he stabbed towards Jill. At this time, Lung Shichi finally revealed his ferocious fangs. Chapter 332. All of this had happened too suddenly. It was so sudden that even Li Xianyang could not react, not to mention his 3 disciples and Jill. Although the 6 of them were all in the Spirit Pulse realm, under the joint attack of Leng Shichi and his 3 Dark Lightning envoys, as well as the experts of the 6 great families, they immediately fell into a dead end. And the reason for all of this was the caravan that came to Ai Ming Mountain, which was actually a team of experts from the 6 great families. Leng Shichi calculated that Li Xianyang would definitely not let this caravan go, so he used a lack of manpower as an excuse to transfer away a portion of Li Xianyang's fighting strength. The battle at the foot of the mountain was actually caused by Leng Shichi and the rest killing Chang and the others. After that, Thousand-Face Mask disguised everyone and put on the Profound Yang sect's clothes to prepare for a sneak attack on Li Xianyang. As the main force, Sun Gang City Lord naturally disguised himself as Chang, the only one who could get close to Li Xianyang. Thus the scene in front of them happened. Once they started fighting, Sun Gang's disguise also disappeared, and Li Xianyang immediately recognized him. Li Xianyang was shocked. "Sun Gang, why are you here?" Sun Gang roared, "Humph, you secretly colluded with the Zhu Lu country, your crime is unforgivable, everyone should kill you." Sun Gang clenched his fists, and the clothes on his body immediately flew off, only to see 8 sparkling spirit veins on his arms, as well as dozens of resplendent stars. Those were the spirit cavities. Sun Gang's cultivation technique was obviously very extreme. He gathered all the spirit veins and spirit cavities on his arms. This way, his fist technique would be boundless. Sun Gang's fists collided and a loud boom sounded out, following which a scarlet-red sun appeared. The entire AI Ming mountain was enveloped in waves of heat. Li Xianyang roared, his palms facing the sky, and the surrounding spirit energy of heaven and earth frantically gathered. Pieces of golden light constantly surged, and a golden sun rose in the sky. This was Li Xuanyang's foundation, the glorious sun, mysterious sun palm. At the peak of AI Ming mountain, 2 suns appeared. The other spirit pulse stage spirit cultivators who were fighting all dodged, while Leng Shiqi stared at Jill. Everyone here had to die, but Jill couldn't die. He had to capture him alive. Jill had been ambushed in the first place. The Leng Shiqi inky jade sword was still engraved with 63 demonic patterns, and it was currently sweeping over with a violent sword aura. Gil pulled out a pair of strange scimitars and was about to face the enemy, but Leng Shiqi's eyes suddenly flashed with colorful light, and Gil's action of pulling out the scimitars suddenly stopped. In less than a breath's time he woke up, but Leng Shiqi's sword was already close to him. Gil barely had enough time to block the attack. As the sword light swept past, the inky jade sword directly shattered the scimitar and even chopped off Gil's entire right arm. Leng Shiqi's sword shook, and over 100 invisible invading meridian sword chi shot out, instantly opening numerous wounds on Jill's body. At the same time, over 100 sword chi entered his body and sealed his meridians. Leng Shiqi took advantage of the situation and directly knocked Jill unconscious with his palm. Then he pointed out a finger and in an instant, blood chi soared into the sky, thunder raged, and a thunderous bloody light shot towards another Zhulu country person. That person was currently surrounded by several people and was already struggling. How could he have the energy to block Leng Shiqi's thunder blood sky finger? A thunderous blood line flashed, and in the blink of an eye, that person's head exploded. The few people who were attacking were stunned. They had joined forces to attack this person, but they had only injured him. Leng Shiqi had actually killed him in an instant. What kind of strength was this? They turned around and saw that even Jill had been subdued by Leng Shiqi. They couldn't help but sigh at Leng Shiqi's strength. After Leng Shiqi killed this person, he didn't care about them anymore. Instead, he rushed towards the 3 spirit pulse realm cultivators of the Shenyang sect. The 3 of them were all direct disciples of Li Shenyang and must die. However, just as he rushed over, he heard a loud explosion. It was Sun Gang and Li Xuanyang's suns colliding. The entire AI Ming mountain was suddenly enveloped by an endless golden and red light, followed by a terrifying wave of spirit energy, causing everyone to retreat. Leng Shiqi quietly opened his Byakugan, and in his vision, he instantly discovered that Li Xuanyang's strength was about to collapse. Sure enough, after 2 breaths of time, the red sun completely swallowed the golden sun, and Li Xianyang spat out another mouthful of blood. If the 2 of them were at their peak, Li Xianyang would be stronger than Sun Gang, but he was attacked by Sun Gang at close range and was heavily injured. From that moment onwards, Li Xianyang already knew the result. However, when he saw that Jill had been subdued and his 3 disciples were on the verge of death, his eyes immediately widened. Jill had fallen into the hands of others, and that was proof of his betrayal. His Shenyang sect would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed. As a sect leader, Li Shenyang quickly understood that this was all because of one person, and that was Leng Shiqi. He stared at Leng Shiqi and said fiercely, You actually weren't controlled by the mind-controlling goo. You've been pretending all along." Leng Shiqi sneered, "That's right. How did you do it?" Even so, Li Xianyang still found it hard to believe. Leng Shiqi said, "The dead don't need to know so much, City Lord Sun." Sun Gang raised his huge fist, and a terrifying aura erupted like a volcano. It seemed like Sun Gang was ready to use his killing move. At this time, Li Xianyang laughed strangely, "Haha, do you think you can defeat me like this?" As soon as he finished his words, his whole body burst out with a strong bloody light. He actually began to burn all his essence blood. Not only that, but Li Xianyang had also done something completely unexpected. His body moved as fast as a flash of light, and he turned around and rushed down the cliff of Ai Ming Mountain. Although Ai Ming Mountain was only a small mountain, if he fell down he would definitely die even if he was an expert in the late stage of Spirit Aperture Realm. However, Li Xianyang seemed to have other means. He left behind a ruthless sentence, Lung Shiqi Sun Gang, just you wait. When I break through to Gang spirit realm, it will be the time of your death. Sun Gang waited and watched Li Xianyang fall down the cliff. He did not dare to jump down, but he knew that he could not get the first Origin 9 aperture crystal. In addition, he had to be careful of Li Xuanyang's revenge in the future. In a fit of anger, he killed 3 of Li Xuanyang's personal disciples in an instant. The remnant souls of several spiritual pulse realm cultivators benefited Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi knew that Sun Gang was furious. He said, "Don't worry, City Lord Sun. Li Xianyang is seriously injured and has burned his essence blood. He can't run far. I will report this matter later. He will be executed soon. If we can recover the first Origin 9 aperture crystal, we will definitely give it to City Lord Sun." Sun Gang was silent for a moment. Although he was angry, he knew that there was no problem with the arrangement tonight. And from what Li Xianyang said just now, Lung Shiqi had put himself in danger by being poisoned. In other words, except for Li Xianyang jumping off the cliff, everything was in Lung Shiqi's plan. Therefore Sun Gang had nothing to say. He lowered his voice and said, "Then I will wait for the good news from Lord Lu." With that he flicked his sleeves and left. As for Lung Shiqi, after he quickly settled everything, he ordered everyone to rush to the vicinity of Shenyang Mountain and wait for orders. He secretly activated the Fate skill. Chapter 333. At the bottom of the cliff of Ai Ming Mountain, a person covered in blood was stumbling and running in a sorry state. This person was the sect master of the third-rate Shenyang sect, Li Xianyang. Li Xianyang's clothes were tattered and his hair was disheveled. He didn't look like a sect master at all. First he was ambushed by Sun Gang and defeated. Then he burned his essence blood and used his trump card to escape. However, his eyes were as cold as a beast's and filled with hatred. Hatred that soared to the heavens. He had been tricked by someone else, and that person was only at the mid-stage of the spirit pulse realm. Lu Xingji, what a good Lu Xingji. I'll skin you alive and pull out your tendons to relieve my hatred. Li Xianyang said through gritted teeth. But at this moment his body froze. Red, blue and yellow spirit light suddenly appeared in front of him. Then a figure bathed in spirit light walked out. This person was wearing a set of ferocious-looking demonic armor, and behind him was a cloak made of silver-white flowing light. His eyes were greenish-white, and there was a strange blood-red mark on his forehead. Moreover, his body was surrounded by purple demonic chi. His aura was comparable to the mid-stage of the spirit aperture realm. This was Lung Shiqi, who had activated the demonic beast blood rune armor, the beast origin battle rune, the white eye, and the demonic fiend blood rune. Lung Shiqi in his strongest state. Li Xianyang looked at the person who suddenly appeared. He didn't say anything because Lung Shiqi's dense killing intent said it all. He was here to kill Li Xianyang. Lung Shiqi's hands formed a seal. Cold chi and hot flames soared into the sky at the same time. Fire and ice tornado. However, this tornado didn't sweep out. Instead, it spread out and enveloped Lung Shiqi and Li Xianyang. The reason he did this was to prevent Li Xianyang from escaping. Li Xianyang's expression was grave. He didn't expect Lung Shiqi to be a difficult spirit caster. But of course, Li Xianyang wasn't going to just sit there and wait for death. Without hesitation he ignited his blood essence again. Li Xianyang flipped his palm and a burst of golden light appeared. It stretched for tens of meters, and there were faint traces of red light flashing within it. The golden radiance condensed into a huge palm shadow, which crashed down with a loud bang. Lung Shiqi made a grasping motion in the air, and the gangwood spear appeared in his hand. He let out a low growl, and his whole body exuded an unparalleled aura of death. At the same time strands of golden light flashed, and the gangwood spear was covered in a layer of golden scales. Lung Shiqi's power burst forth and his feet rumbled like thunder. His entire body directly rushed towards Li Xianyang's palm shadow. Just as the spirit spear was about to collide with the palm shadow, a dazzling golden cross suddenly flashed in the air, instantly tearing apart the palm shadow. Golden cross spear. Lung Shiqi used Byakugan to see through the flaw in Li Xianyang's attack and easily neutralized it. Li Xianyang formed a fist seal with his hands, and golden spirit chi continuously surged. He blasted out with Vajra suppressing the world. Lung Shiqi, however, pointed a finger at Li Xianyang, and a crimson beam of light shot out. The thunderclap blood heavenly finger had an extremely strong penetrative power, and it pierced through Li Xianyang's Vajra fist with a single point. The remaining finger energy continued to shoot toward Li Xianyang. The golden radiance around Li Xuanyang's body shrank, forming a light golden armor that blocked the remaining thunderclap blood heavenly finger. But at the same time, it also meant that he no longer had the initiative. Leng Shiqi's hands turned into two ghost claws. Demonic chi surged behind him, and a demonic dragon vaguely soared out. The demonic dragon soared into the sky, and two demonic claws tore through the night sky. This was Leng Shiqi's fusion of Ghost Jade Claw, Earth Fiend Demon Shadow Claw, and Wu Xiang's third-stage spiritual technique, Dragon Capturing Claw, was the result of this fusion. Li Xuanyang's expression changed drastically. He roared, and the blood-red radiance on his body grew even brighter. His face turned even paler. He raised his palms to the sky. This was the beginning of his signature technique, the glorious Sun Mystic Sun Palm. Then a golden sun appeared, suppressing the demonic aura, and melting the two demonic dragon claws. However, the golden sun also disappeared. At this time, Leng Shiqi unsheathed his inky jade sword. Hundreds of icy blue sword energy shot out, instantly drowning Li Xuanyang. Li Xuanyang immediately recognized the inky jade sword. He exclaimed, "You're Lu Xingji." The mid-stage spirit vein realm brat he'd always looked down on actually had such terrifying strength. He'd hidden his strength well. Li Xuanyang knew that if this continued, he'd definitely die. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to run. As a result, Li Xuanyang simply stopped blocking the frost sword chi. He allowed the sword chi to hit his spirit armor while he took out a flying knife. This throwing knife was golden all over. Li Xuanyang poured all of his spiritual power and blood energy into it, and it was immediately dyed red. The throwing knife shot out, but it wasn't aimed at Leng Shiqi. Instead, it was aimed at the tornado of ice and fire that surrounded them. The throwing knife was as fast as lightning. It instantly tore a large hole in the tornado of ice and fire. Li Xuanyang turned into a blood-red radiance and shot out. Leng Shiqi didn't panic. He only took a light step forward, and his body appeared 30 meters away. His figure was like a ghost from the netherworld. It looked like he was drifting, but in reality he was as fast as lightning. This was the combination of ghost parade, fluttering steps, and spring-stepping flash. It was a body movement that combined both lightness and movement, ghost steps of nether spring. Li Xuanyang burned his essence and blood fast, but Leng Shiqi was faster. He felt that Leng Shiqi was still behind him, and a look of desperation appeared on his face. He knew that with his old body, even if he burned his essence and blood, he couldn't hold on for long. If he kept running like this, he would run out of essence and blood and die first. Instead of dying slowly, it was better to fight desperately. Maybe there was a chance of survival. Li Xuanyang gritted his teeth and took out a palm-sized bright crystal. It was the first Origin 9 Apertures crystal. This was the key to his promotion to Gang Spirit Realm, and he had risked countless dangers to get it. Now he had no time to think about the future. He planned to refine the first Origin 9 Apertures crystal directly. Although it would waste most of its power, it could help him recover a lot of spiritual power in a short time. With enough spiritual power, he naturally had the capital to escape. However, at this moment, Leng Shiqi, who was 30 meters away from him, suddenly flashed a silver light. His figure actually crossed the 30 meters and came to Li Xuanyang in an instant. At this moment, Leng Shiqi was holding the green rain saber. All his spiritual power, chi and blood, devil chi, monster chi, and even his spiritual power and the will to kill Li Xuanyang were gathered on the green rain saber. The green rain saber trembled in the scabbard and made a sound. After that, a chilly blade light flashed like a white horse, and it vanished in an instant. Li Xuanyang's body was split into two in an instant. Chapter 334. The ephemeral epiphyllum split Li Xuanyang in half, but strangely, not a single drop of blood flowed out. Li Xuanyang had been burning his own essence blood, so there wasn't much blood left in his body. Leng Shiqi's blade that was infused with 9 leaves demonic chi became even more demonic as it was able to absorb Li Xuanyang's blood. However, Leng Shiqi's current state wasn't very good. All of his statuses had disappeared, and his aura was constantly falling. Fortunately, he had absorbed part of Li Xuanyang's remnant soul's power, which could be considered as replenishing some of his spiritual power and blood. Then he quickly swallowed a few pills to recover his spiritual power and blood, and finally felt a bit better. Just as he was about to wipe the corpse, the first Origin 9 Aperture crystal that had fallen to the ground broke in half with a ka sound. It turned out that Leng Shiqi's blade had also broken the first Origin 9 Aperture crystal. Leng Shiqi was shocked. This was an extremely precious treasure. It would be a pity to destroy it just like that. However, Nine Leaves shouted, "Silly boy, why aren't you absorbing the power of the first origin 9 aperture crystal?" Leng Shiqi focused his eyes and saw that the first origin 9 aperture crystal was currently overflowing with a large amount of pure and majestic power. He quickly took the first origin 9 aperture crystal in his hand, and then quickly used his cultivation method to absorb and refine the power. He could immediately feel that the spiritual power in his body had clearly increased by a bit. In just a breath's time, it was equivalent to a day of bitter cultivation. Just how pure was the energy contained in it? No wonder Li Xianyang, a sect leader, wanted it even in his dreams. However, Leng Shiqi secretly felt that it was a pity. This first origin 9 aperture crystal was a treasure that could only be refined at the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. Even though he had already absorbed it with all his might, a lot of the power was still wasted. At this moment, Nine Leaves' voice sounded again, "Leng Shiqi, I can help you collect the power of the first origin 9 aperture crystal and not let it overflow. However, I want to absorb 60% of the power." Leng Shiqi only thought for a moment before agreeing. If he had to absorb and refine it himself, he probably wouldn't even be able to absorb 30%. According to Nine Leaves, he could absorb 40%, which was already a great profit. Following that, Nine Leaves' soul body appeared. Her 10 fingers linked together to weave a green cocoon around her. Sure enough, the power emitted by the first origin 9 aperture crystal was unable to escape the green silkworm cocoon. Next, Leng Shiqi and Nine Leaves began to absorb the power of the first origin 9 aperture crystal. After half an incense stick's worth of time, Leng Shiqi's aura suddenly surged. 7th level of the spiritual pulse realm. The bottleneck from the 6th level to the 7th level of the spirit pulse realm was not small. Leng Shiqi had been prepared to be stuck at the peak of the 6th level for a long time, but now he had easily broken through. Not only that, but his spiritual power was also increasing at a rapid pace. With the passage of time, Leng Shiqi's cultivation had reached the 8th level of the spiritual pulse realm. He had even reached the peak of the 8th level. As long as he continued, he would be able to break through to the 9th level of the spirit vein stage. Unfortunately, just as he was about to break through to the 9th level, the power of the first origin 9 aperture crystal was exhausted. Leng Shiqi sighed slightly, but after thinking about it, it was already a great opportunity for his cultivation to soar from the 6th level to the 8th level overnight. He was satisfied. Nine Leaves also absorbed the other power. At this moment, her soul body looked more solid. She looked at Leng Shiqi and said, "You didn't break through to the 9th level of the spirit vein stage. Are you a bit unwilling?" Leng Shiqi's thoughts turned quickly. Nine Leaves' words seemed to have a deeper meaning. He nodded and said, "Senior is really insightful." Nine Leaves smiled and said, "I'm in a good mood now, so I can remind you of something for free. Don't forget that there's still a little thing in your heart." Little thing? Hearing this, Leng Shiqi immediately remembered that there was indeed a mind control goo in his body. When Li Xianyang planted the mind control goo in him, he said that this goo worm was equivalent to a rank 6 treasure. Although it was half dead now, it did contain a lot of power. Leng Shiqi had also studied the mind control goo before. In fact, this mind control goo was a parasite in a person's heart. It constantly released illusions to affect the mind and thoughts of the person affected. Leng Shiqi closed his eyes again and began to refine the mind control goo. This time he used the 5-god flowing light art. In terms of illusions, how could a small goo worm compare to the 5-god flowing light art? Leng Shiqi's body flashed with 5-colored light as he successfully refined the mind control goo without any obstruction. About an hour later, his body was covered in 5-colored light. His cultivation was already at the 9th level of the spirit vein stage. Leng Shiqi opened his eyes. 2 rays of 5-colored light suddenly burst out and then dissipated. He felt the majestic spirit force in his body and couldn't help but feel a bit high-spirited. In one night, his cultivation jumped from the 6th level of the spirit vein stage to the 9th level of the spirit vein stage. This speed was already heaven-defying. However, he quickly suppressed this thought in his heart. There were countless geniuses in the world and countless opportunities. He could encounter them, but others also had their own opportunities. He wouldn't belittle himself, but he definitely wouldn't be arrogant. With this thought, the last trace of excitement and pride in Leng Shiqi's heart disappeared and was replaced with calmness. At the same time, he also understood why many people would be lost in power and would do anything to obtain power. For example, Li Xianyang. Thinking of Li Xianyang, Leng Shiqi walked to his corpse and took his mustard seed bracelet. Not only did this mustard seed bracelet contain a large amount of resources, but the space inside was also several times larger than Leng Shiqi's mustard seed bag. He simply wore the mustard seed bracelet on his wrist. Nine Leaves' soul body glanced at the mustard seed bracelet on his wrist. Leng Shiqi's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. He secretly thought to himself, Nine Leaf wouldn't still be eyeing the resources in the mustard seed bracelet, right? Nine Leaves' eyes turned and he smiled. Leng Shiqi, do you think Li Xuanyang's palm technique is powerful? Leng Shiqi couldn't guess Nine Leaves' intentions. He said, Li Xuanyang's glorious sun mystic palm is a peak level 5 spiritual technique, and his famous consummate technique is naturally very powerful. That's right. In fact, this glorious sun mystic palm is just one of the spiritual techniques attached to the golden mystic yang technique. Senior seems to know this technique? Leng Shiqi couldn't help but be a little puzzled. Nine Leaf explained, my cultivation has recovered a lot and my soul power has also increased. After Li Xianyang died, I swallowed a part of his soul and extracted this technique. Leng Shiqi's eyes widened. He seemed to know what Nine Leaf was going to say. Nine Leaf's lips curled into a smile. I can give you the technique, but I want all the resources in this mustard seed bag. Chapter 335. Hearing Nine Leaf's words, Leng Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It seemed that Nine Leaf had been eyeing Li Xuanyang's resources. Of course, he wanted Li Xuanyang's cultivation methods and spirit techniques. Although there weren't many cultivation resources in the mustard seed bracelet, they were all top quality. If he could consume these resources, his cultivation and strength would rise to another level. However, these resources were still inferior to Li Xuanyang's golden mystic yang art and more than one rank 5 spirit technique. After all, cultivation methods and spirit techniques were the foundation of a spirit cultivator. Leng Shiqi gritted his teeth and said, okay. Nine Leaf chuckled and wrote the golden mystic yang art's mantra in the air. Then she asked Leng Shiqi to release her body. Leng Shiqi did as he was told and poured out all the resources in the mustard seed bracelet. Nine Leaf's soul and body became one. She opened her mouth and swallowed all the resources like a whale swallowing mountains and rivers. And not bad. Nine Leaf nodded in satisfaction and said, okay, Li Xianyang is dead. Destroying the profound Yang sect shouldn't be difficult for you. I'll go out for a walk. After a while, I'll come and find you for the remaining resources. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He didn't expect Nine Leaf to be so confident in him destroying the profound Yang sect. Then, without waiting for Leng Shiqi's reply, Nine Leaf turned into a purple light and disappeared into the night. However, Leng Shiqi had a feeling that Nine Leaf would cause trouble sooner or later. AI, forget it. Let's not care about her. Leng Shiqi shook his head slightly. Then he used the Ghost Spring steps and rushed to Mist City. While rushing, he was thinking about how to destroy the profound Yang sect. Currently, the profound Yang sect still had Li Feizhou, the Spirit Aperture Realm Great Elder. In addition, he also had 4 Spirit Pulse Realm Direct Disciples. These 5 people were the biggest threat. In addition, there were more than 30 Spirit Transformation Realm and 1 to 200 Spirit Assembly Realm and Pure Spirit Realm disciples. These people were nothing to be afraid of, but there were so many of them that they might run away. If he didn't remove the roots, there would be endless trouble in the future. Therefore, Leng Shiqi had 2 urgent matters to solve. First, who would deal with Li Feizhou? Regarding this point, Leng Shiqi's original plan was to ask Sun Gang to make a move. He had used the first Origin 9 Aperture Crystal as a reward to get Sun Gang to attack Li Xianyang. According to the original plan, he had not intended to keep the first Origin 9 Aperture Crystal for himself. He really intended to give it to Sun Gang. So he to ask Sun Gang to deal with Li Feizhou, Sun to deal with him. After all, Li Tu's to make to, S to him to do. To Leng Shiqi's Tu's to that was to B's to Li Sun. Now Leng Shiqi had 2 choices. He could either mobilize the silver-striped Blood Cloak assassins from the Blood Cloak Pavilion, or he could fight Li Feizhou himself. If Leng Shiqi wanted to assassinate Xianyang sect secretly, it would be best to hire the silver-striped Blood-Red Cloak assassins. After all, that was what they were best at. However, Leng Shiqi wanted to wipe out Xianyang sect openly. Only by doing so could he make the most contribution and spread his name far and wide. Therefore he could only do it himself. Now that Leng Shiqi's cultivation had climbed to the 9th level of the Spirit Pulse realm, if he were to activate all his powers, he would indeed have the strength of an early-stage spirit aperture realm cultivator. However, he only had strength and didn't have the characteristics of a spirit aperture realm cultivator. Therefore, if he wanted to fight Li Feizhou, he had to weaken Li Feizhou's strength before that. Moreover, he didn't need to kill Li Feizhou. As long as he could delay him, his subordinates would quickly kill the other disciples of Shenyang sect, and then surround Li Feizhou. As for Li Feizhou, he temporarily thought of this. There was another problem if he wanted to destroy Shenyang sect, and that was to have a large amount of manpower. He had around 80 dark lightning guards under him, and all of them were at the spirit transformation realm. They were the elites of the elites. Killing the disciples of Shenyang sect wasn't a problem, but their weakness was obvious. They didn't have a lot of people. Even with the dozens of reserve members in Dark Lightning Manor, they only had around 100 people. It was still far from enough to completely destroy Shenyang sect. As for the 6 great families, there were around 60 people in total, which was barely enough. However, in order to be absolutely sure, Leng Shiqi decided to look for someone. It was someone he had met once before, and that was the deputy commander of Lanqi City's city guards, Ning Xiu. The commander of the city guards, Su Ji, had been missing for a few days, and Sun Gang had secretly come to Ai Ming Mountain under the pretext of investigating. Now, all of Lanqi City's affairs were managed by Ning Xiu, and he could be said to be proud of himself. Leng Shiqi guessed that Sun Gang would definitely put on a show and wouldn't return to Lanqi City for the next 2 days. He wanted to persuade Ning Xiu to send a portion of the city guards to assist him in attacking Shenyang sect before Sun Gang returned. Thus, he hurried through the night and finally returned to Lanqi City at noon the next day. He had been using the Netherworld Ghost Steps to hasten his journey. Even though he was at the 9th level of the Spirit Pulse realm, he still couldn't take it. First, he confirmed that Ning Xiu was indeed in the City Lord's manor. Then he rested for a while before going to look for Ning Xiu. When Ning Xiu found out that Leng Shiqi, the supervisor of Dark Lightning Manor, was looking for him, he was a little surprised. However, in terms of status, Leng Shiqi was 1 level higher than him, so he had to treat Leng Shiqi warmly. However, Leng Shiqi didn't have time to pretend with him. He directly took out the supervisor's token and ordered, "I want to destroy Shenyang sect, which colluded with other countries and committed a heinous crime. Now, I need the City Lord's manor to mobilize the city guards to assist me." Leng Shiqi's short sentence set off a huge wave in Ning Xiu's heart. Did he hear wrongly? Destroy the third-rate Shenyang sect. However, when he saw Leng Shiqi's supervisor's token, he couldn't say a word. According to the rules of the Thunderflame dynasty, the Dark Lightning Guards could indeed mobilize the city guards in an emergency. However, this kind of thing had to be decided by the city lord himself. However, Sun Gang wasn't here, so he didn't dare to make this decision. Leng Shiqi saw that Ning Xiu was hesitating and immediately snorted, "Humph, is Deputy Commander Ning going to defy my order?" Ning Xiu shook his head repeatedly, "Lord Lu, this is a serious matter. City Lord Sun isn't in the city right now, so I really can't make this decision." "How dare you?" Leng Shiqi shouted angrily, "The Shenyang sect's traitors could escape at any time. If Deputy Commander Ning is unwilling to cooperate with me and the traitors escape, can you bear this kind of crime?" Ning Xiu immediately trembled. Of course he couldn't bear it. However, mobilizing the city guards was a serious matter. If something happened, he couldn't escape punishment. He was in a dilemma. Ning Xiu wished that Sun Gang and Su Ji were both here. That way he wouldn't have to bear this kind of heavy responsibility. However, Leng Shiqi's tone calmed down. "Deputy Commander Ning, I'm not here to make things difficult for you. I'm here to give you credit. Don't worry, the Shenyang sect is like a turtle in a jar. As long as Deputy Commander Ning is willing to transfer 200 city guards to me, I can guarantee that everyone will return in one piece and will give Deputy Commander Ning a great credit. I heard that Commander Su Ji has been missing for a few days. Don't you want to remove the word deputy? You should know that I'm also a spiritual pulse realm cultivator. Commander Ning is also qualified to be a supervisor." He even emphasized the words Commander Ning. In addition, he unknowingly used an illusion to affect part of Ning Xiu's mind. When Ning Xiu heard the words Commander Ning from Leng Shiqi, his heart was filled with hot blood. He gritted his teeth and didn't hesitate any longer. He said, "This subordinate obeys." Chapter 336. One day later, at the entrance of Profound Sun sect. At this moment, the 2 doormen of Pure Spirit Realm were standing there in boredom. They were still chatting with each other. However, all of a sudden, a figure covered in blood staggered over. "Who is it?" The two doormen immediately shouted. When they saw the person's face, they exclaimed, "Elder Chang?" It turned out that this person was Li Xuanyang's eldest direct disciple, Elder Chang Wei of Profound Sun Sect. While running, Chang Wei panted and shouted, "Quick! Take me to Master Uncle Li. I have an urgent matter to report." The two doormen immediately panicked. Chang Wei was usually a high-ranking person in Profound Sun Sect. Now that he was in such a state, something terrible must have happened. Between the two of them, the older one came back to his senses first. He supported Chang Wei and walked quickly. The other doorman frowned and continued to guard the mountain gate. Not long after Chang Wei went up the mountain, another 10 people came to the entrance. These 10 people all had powerful auras. They were all in the spiritual pulse realm. Although the doorman could not see their cultivation, he often came in contact with spiritual pulse realm cultivators. He could roughly tell that they were all in the spiritual pulse realm. Thus he became even more nervous. What could happen when 10 spiritual pulse realm cultivators came to Profound Sun Sect? When he thought of Elder Chang's miserable state, he had a bad premonition. Just as the doorman was about to ask, one of them suddenly pointed at the doorman. A yellow finger energy directly pierced through the doorman's head. The doorman's body fell to the ground. Even in death, he did not understand why they suddenly killed him. And the person who killed him was Chiu Cheng. The other 9 people were naturally Qiao Qian, Pang Yuan, the people from the 6 great clans, and the vice commander of the city guards, Ning Xiu. Behind them, there were 80 dark lightning guards, 60 disciples of the great clans, and 200 city guards. With such a lineup, it was more than enough to destroy a half-crippled Profound Sun Sect. But there was still a huge threat in Profound Sun Sect, and that was the great elder Li Feizhou. At this moment, Li Feizhou was meeting with Chang Wei. When he saw Chang Wei's terrible injuries, he knew that something bad had happened. Of course, he knew that Li Xianyang had brought a few direct disciples and spirit transformation realm disciples down the mountain. He also guessed what Li Xianyang was going to do, but he was powerless to stop him. Thus, he could only pray that Li Xianyang would return safely. But 2 days had passed. There was no news of Li Xuanyang's group. Li Feizhou knew that there must have been an accident. However, he didn't know where Li Xianyang and the others had gone. All he could do was stay in the Profound Yang sect. Chang Wei's Li Feizhou, Li Feizhou, Li Feizhou. However, Li Feizhou was far more cautious than Li Xianyang. He helped Chang Wei over and transferred some of his spiritual energy to him. In this way, not only could he help Chang Wei recover some of his Yuan Qi, he could also find out if Chang Wei was real or fake. Li Feizhou quickly sensed that the cultivation method in Chang Wei's body was the golden mystic yang skill, so he dispelled the vigilance in his heart. He hurriedly asked, "What about senior brother sect leader? What the hell is going on?" "Martial uncle, it's not good, it's not good," Chang Wei said with a panicked expression, but he glanced at the people around him. Li Feizhou waved his hand and those people left on their own accord. Chang Wei then said, "Martial uncle, the night before yesterday we followed Master to Ai Ming Mountain to trade with the people of Zhulu country. At first it was very smooth, but who knew?" Chang Wei's words made Li Feizhou very uncomfortable. He panicked. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" "Who knows?" Chang Wei didn't finish his sentence. Demonic energy surged around him and a set of black demonic armor appeared. A few blood marks appeared on his forehead. At the same time, the azure rain saber was unsheathed, and an extremely condensed saber light flashed across. This saber looked very ordinary, but in this world, it was as if it was the only thing that existed. Everything else was destroyed. Li Feizhou would never have guessed that his martial nephew Chang would actually attack him. Facing this blade that seemed to cut through space, Li Feizhou couldn't help but be shocked. He hurriedly used his spiritual armor to resist. However, the spiritual armor was easily torn apart by the blade as if it was made of paper. Li Feizhou hurriedly put his hands in front of him. In an instant, a golden light flashed and a 5-foot large palm print appeared. Unfortunately, the palm print was torn in half by the blade before it could fully condense. However, the power of the blade was greatly reduced. In the end, the blade landed on Li Feizhou's body. His skin and flesh were torn apart and his meridians were broken. Just as the blade was about to shatter his internal organs, a majestic demonic energy burst out from his body. A ferocious headless demon suddenly appeared and blocked the fatal blow for him. But even so, Li Feizhou was seriously injured. Chang Wei sneered, "He, elder Li of Shenyang sect is actually secretly cultivating demonic arts. If this matter were to spread, Xianyang sect's reputation would be ruined. Li Feizhou looked at Chang Wei in front of him. He was shocked and angry but also very puzzled. He secretly tested the other party just now. Chang Wei's cultivation technique was clearly the golden mystic yang technique. The appearance and injuries could be faked, but how could the cultivation technique be faked? Unfortunately, what he didn't know was that Leng Shiqi had used the system to cultivate the golden mystic yang technique in an instant. And the only way he could think of to delay Li Feizhou was to use the same trick again. He had cultivated the bone transformation technique, and used this technique to change his body shape to be exactly the same as Chang Wei's. With the help of 1,000 faces, he changed his appearance so that he could deceive all eyes. Only then could he seriously injure Li Feizhou. Now that Leng Shiqi's cultivation had increased greatly, using the flash-in-the-pan technique would no longer make him collapse, but it still consumed more than 60% of his spiritual energy. Moreover, he could no longer maintain the demonic beast blood tattoo armor and demonic fiend blood tattoo. It could be said that his battle strength was greatly reduced. Even though Li Feizhou was seriously injured, he was still an expert in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm. The current situation was still unfavorable for Leng Shiqi. However, Leng Shiqi wasn't worried. His task was to delay Leng Shiqi. Li Feizhou also saw this point and immediately shouted, "Men!" However, after a few breaths, no one came in. At the same time, there were sounds of fighting outside. Li Feizhou's heart sank. Leng Shiqi coldly said, "Li Feizhou, the Dark Thunder Guards and City Guards have already surrounded Xianyang sect. Xianyang sect will no longer exist from now on." Li Feizhou's eyes instantly turned crimson red. His body involuntarily emitted demonic qi. Xianyang sect was his life's work. Seeing that it was about to collapse, he seemed to be going crazy. "Oh!" Li Feizhou roared. Demonic qi surged out of his body and condensed into headless ghosts. Leng Shiqi didn't use any spiritual techniques. Instead, 5 light golden needles appeared in his hand. Chapter 337. These 5 golden needles were the golden thread demon needles that Leng Shiqi obtained from Su Lu and the other demonic cultivators. Leng Shiqi flicked his fingers and the 5 golden needles shot out. Although Li Feizhou was mad, he was still rational. He felt the threat of the golden needles and quickly ordered a few headless ghosts to intercept the golden needles. Unfortunately, the golden needles were treasures that could restrain ghosts. They pierced through the headless ghosts and nailed onto Li Feizhou's body. Immediately after, golden runes appeared and circulated around Li Feizhou's body, completely sealing all of his demonic qi. The golden thread demon needles could easily seal the 1,000-year-old black fiend demonic corpse, not to mention Li Feizhou, a half-baked demonic cultivator. With his demonic qi sealed, Li Feizhou was immediately devoured by the demonic qi ghosts. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood with his internal organs as his aura plummeted. Li Feizhou looked at Leng Shiqi in shock. He would never have thought that Leng Shiqi was also surrounded by demonic qi. He was obviously a demonic cultivator. But this demonic cultivator actually had a treasure that could restrain demonic qi. What made him even more shocked was that Leng Shiqi had also removed his disguise. Li Feizhou immediately recognized him. "Supervisor of Dark Thunder Hall, Lu." "Okay, got it." Li Feizhou gritted his teeth and spat out the words. "That's right." Leng Shiqi said calmly and started chatting with Li Feizhou. His purpose here was to stall Li Feizhou, not to fight to the death with him. Even though Li Feizhou was injured, he was still an expert in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm. Moreover, as the great elder of the profound Yang sect, no one would believe that he didn't have anything on him. So, since Li Feizhou wanted to chat with him, Leng Shiqi was naturally very willing to do so. The longer this dragged on, the more disciples of the profound Yang sect would die. As long as those people were all dead, he would be able to receive reinforcements. Leng Shiqi continued, "Li Feizhou, give up. Li Xianyang is dead and the Shenyang sect will cease to exist. If you surrender, I can let you leave with a few good seedlings. It can be considered as leaving behind some descendants." "Ah!" Li Feizhou laughed. "Lu Xingji, who would believe your words? I have nothing to say about falling into your hands. I can only blame senior brother sect leader for being greedy. But you want me to surrender? Don't even think about it." Leng Shiqi just shook his head. He raised his hand and cold air and raging flames swept out and enveloped Li Feizhou. Of course, Leng Shiqi did not expect the fire and ice tornado to kill Li Feizhou. His hands quickly formed a seal, and a strange evil aura appeared, condensing into a terrifying evil aura in midair. Ghost shadows shrieked, and waves of evil aura surged out and covered Li Feizhou. In an instant, several kinds of negative emotions surged into his mind, and the evil aura also continuously corroded his broken body. Xietian Wailing Curse. Under the combined attack of the fire and ice tornado and the Xietian Wailing Curse, Li Feizhou could not resist at all. He could only struggle with the golden light. At the same time, his aura continued to decrease. Leng Shiqi was cautious, so he did not dare to rush forward. He was not in a rush, so he continued to use spells to wear down Li Feizhou's strength. Not long after, the sounds outside gradually decreased, and then 3 people walked in. It was Qiu Qing, Qiao Qian, and Pang Yuan. They were covered in blood and filled with killing intent. Seeing them walk in, Leng Shiqi knew that there was no suspense in the battle outside. Qiao Qian cupped his hands and said, "Sir, Li Feizhou's 4 direct disciples and all the disciples in the spirit transformation realm have been killed. There are only a few low-level disciples that are being eliminated." When Li Feizhou heard this, he was so anxious that he spat out another mouthful of blood. A look of despair appeared in his eyes. He muttered, "Dead, the profound Yang sect is dead." When Xiao Qian and the other 2 saw Li Feizhou's miserable state, their faces were filled with shock. Li Feizhou was a spirit cultivator at the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm, yet he was defeated by Leng Shiqi. At first, when Leng Shiqi said that he had a way to deal with Li Feizhou, they did not believe him. Now that they saw the truth, they had no choice but to believe him. At the same time, they were shocked by the speed of Leng Shiqi's strength. When they first met Leng Shiqi, he was only at the 5th level of the Spirit Pulse realm. In less than 2 months, his cultivation had soared to the 9th level of the Spirit Pulse realm. His strength had also become even more terrifying. When Leng Shiqi was at the Spirit Pulse realm middle stage, he was able to kill Spirit Pulse late stage cultivators. Now that he was at the 9th level of the Spirit Pulse realm, he was able to defeat Spirit Aperture realm middle stage cultivators. This kind of terrifying speed of improvement was simply shocking. Of course, Leng Shiqi was able to defeat Li Feizhou because of luck. First, he launched a sneak attack which greatly reduced Li Feizhou's strength. Then he coincidentally used the golden thread demon needles to restrain Li Feizhou's demonic arts, resulting in the current situation. If it was a direct confrontation, Leng Shiqi believed that he would be able to hold on for a while. Therefore, Leng Shiqi did not care about their shocked expressions and said to Li Feizhou, "Xianyang sect has already been destroyed, why are you still holding on?" Li Feizhou sighed deeply, "Ai, this is fate. Xianyang sect will face this sooner or later. Whatever you guys can do it." After Li Feizhou finished speaking, he closed his eyes. His body no longer flickered with golden light as if he was waiting for death. Leng Shiqi gave a signal with his eyes. Pang Yuan and the other 2 carefully approached. Even if Li Feizhou said so, they did not dare to be careless. Qiu Qing pointed, Qiao Qian stabbed, and Pang Yuan's blade fell. The 3 Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators all used their strongest spiritual techniques to attack Li Feizhou, who was waiting for death. Just as the 3 spiritual techniques were about to hit him, Li Feizhou suddenly opened his eyes, which were filled with boundless hatred. "Die!" He roared, and his head flew into the air on its own. Blood spurted out from his neck like a fountain. The blood condensed into the body of a headless ghost, and Li Feizhou's head fused with the ghost, turning into a half-human, half-ghost existence. Li Feizhou's sudden change instantly sent Qiao Qian and the other 2 flying. Then he directly charged towards Leng Shiqi. "Not good!" Pang Yuan shouted and immediately rushed over. Leng Shiqi did not move. His hands formed the grasping flower seal, and his body emitted a faint golden light. At the same time, a silver-white brilliance filled with holy power suddenly lit up behind him, weaving into a cloak. Before Li Feizhou could get close to Leng Shiqi, half of his body was vaporized by the holy power and holy light. Leng Shiqi's inked jade sword came out of its sheath, and then his body disappeared. Li Feizhou was stunned for a moment. Then he saw colorful glazed flower petals falling from the sky. Just as Leng Shiqi was puzzled, the flowers suddenly shot out countless sword qi. Then hundreds of Leng Shiqi appeared out of thin air. He waved his sword qi and formed a sword net to attack Jiang Chen. Chaotic flower dazzling eyes. The boundless sword qi and the violent sword net cut Li Feizhou into pieces in the blink of an eye. Strangely, Li Feizhou was not completely dead. He unwillingly roared, "No!" At this moment, Pang Yuan charged over. Li Feizhou used the last bit of strength to charge at Pang Yuan. Pang Yuan was caught off guard and was hit by Li Feizhou. His body flew out and he spat out blood. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Li Feizhou's blood-red body finally dissipated, and there was no longer any signs of life. However, Leng Shiqi's face was pale. Originally, after using Flash of the Night and several spirit techniques, he did not have much spirit energy left. Now that he had forcefully used Chaotic Flower Dazzling Eyes, his spirit energy was slightly overdrawn. Fortunately, he absorbed Li Feizhou's remnant soul and recovered some. Then he took Li Feizhou's mustard seed bag and walked out of the hall. Qiao Qian and Qiu Qing supported the dying Pang Yuan and followed behind him. Outside, the entire Shenyang sect was stained with blood. Everywhere was filled with the smell of blood. Looking around, there was not a single Shenyang sect disciple left. A dignified spirit cultivator sect, the Profound Yang sect, was actually completely destroyed by Leng Shiqi. Chapter 338. The news of the destruction of the third-rate sect, Profound Yang sect, caused an uproar in the North region and even the entire West Desolate Province. The West Desolate Province was an important place at the border. The spirit cultivator sects there had always been under the control of the Thunderblaze dynasty. Thus, the spirit cultivator sects in the West Desolate Province had always been very obedient. Not to mention the massacre of a sect, there hadn't even been any major conflicts. However, the Profound Yang sect was actually destroyed. The reason was even more shocking. The Profound Yang sect actually dared to collude with the Zhulu country to smuggle refined iron. In the border region, the Profound Yang sect dared to play such a trick. They were truly audacious. They deserved such an outcome. What was even more shocking was that the person who destroyed the Profound Yang sect was merely a supervisor from the Dark Thunder Manor in the Mist-Chi City, a Spirit Pulse Realm supervisor. This was the first time they had heard of a Spirit Pulse Realm supervisor. However, this person used some unknown method to destroy the Profound Yang sect that had 2 Spirit Aperture Realm experts. Once this matter was out, all the powers in the West Desolate Province, including the Spirit Cultivator sects, the Discipline Commission, the Dark Thunder Guards, and the various city lord residences all remembered the name of this supervisor. Lu Xingji. As the instigator of this matter, Leng Shiqi had already brought his subordinates back to the Mist-Chi City with dozens of carriages. Those carriages were naturally filled with the cultivation resources of the Profound Yang sect. Although they also had many mustard seed bags, these resources were all reserved for distribution. Of course, it was better to keep an eye on them. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if someone were to fill their own pockets. At this time, hundreds of large boxes filled the entire courtyard of the Dark Thunder Manor. Not long after, another group of people carried dozens of boxes in. The leader was Leng Shiqi. And these boxes were plundered from the Du family. Before the news of the Profound Yang sect's destruction spread, Leng Shiqi had already gone to destroy the Du family. Furthermore, he had also sent people to the surrounding cities to eradicate the families that were involved in the smuggling of refined iron. Presumably, a large amount of resources would be sent over soon. When Leng Shiqi walked into the courtyard, his eyes lit up when he saw the countless cultivation resources before him. There was no need to even mention Qiu Qing, Qiao Qian, and the Dark Thunder Guards. They had probably never seen so many resources in their entire lives, but now it was right in front of them, waving at them. Many people were even drooling all over the floor. But no one dared to touch it. They knew that before Leng Shiqi spoke, whoever dared to touch it would die. Leng Shiqi clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. Although we've eliminated Shenyang sect and gotten rid of a threat for dynasty, we've also lost a Dark Lightning envoy. Leng Shiqi was talking about Pang Yuan, who had been seriously injured by Li Feizhou before he died. On their way back, Pang Yuan had already died. The reason why Leng Shiqi had Thousand Face replace Pang Yuan was to appease his subordinates and eliminate dissidents. Now that he had secured his position as a supervisor, Pang Yuan's existence was no longer as important. Moreover, no matter how well Thousand Face disguised himself, there would still be some flaws, especially when he could not fully unleash his true strength. Therefore, Leng Shiqi took this opportunity to release Thousand Face. When everyone heard Leng Shiqi mention Pang Yuan, they lowered their heads silently. Although Pang Yuan was usually a little hot-tempered, he was generous and forthright. Everyone trusted him. Now that he had died in Li Feizhou's hands, everyone was a little sad. However, Leng Shiqi's next words dispelled all their sadness. He said, It's because of people like Peng Yuan who aren't afraid of death that we were able to destroy the Shenyang sect so easily and obtain such abundant cultivation resources. When they heard about cultivation resources, everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. Leng Shiqi said, "Among these resources 20% will be mine and 20% will be yours." 20%. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They did not expect Leng Shiqi to be so generous. 20% may sound like a small amount, but there were hundreds of boxes here. If they counted carefully, each of them could carry 2 or 3 boxes home. These resources were far more valuable than their combined monthly salaries for several years. "Thank you for the reward, sir." Everyone shouted in unison. Leng Shiqi waved his hand and said, "This is what you deserve. As long as you are loyal to me, there will be more of these things in the future. Take out 10% of the resources and give it to the 6 great families and the city lord's mansion." 10% for the 6 great families and the city lord's mansion was not a lot. Although the 6 great families had already sided with him, they were just like the Dark Lightning Guards. If you give them some benefits, they will support you even more. As for the city lord's mansion, the city lord Sun Gang was called over by him. Leng Shiqi took advantage of Sun Gang's absence to transfer the city guards away. The 5% of the resources was a small token of his sincerity. The last 50% will be sealed in the treasury. Yes. After Leng Shiqi arranged everything, he began to choose the resources he needed. For the current Leng Shiqi, there were 2 things that he needed the most. First, cultivation methods and spiritual techniques. Needless to say, spiritual techniques were Leng Shiqi's foundation. Cultivation methods were also very important. This was because Leng Shiqi was now at the 9th level of the Spirit Pulse realm. Although this was the last level of the Spirit Pulse realm, it was just the beginning for him. He had already opened 10 spirit pulses in his body, but his goal was to open all 72 spirit pulses. However, the cultivation techniques he currently possessed, including the Heaven Fiend 9 Underworld's Demonic Beast Blood Devouring Record, the 5 Gods Flowing Light Technique, the 1000 Revolutions Illusory World Technique, the Amorphous Truth, and the Golden Mystic Yang Technique added up to only 42 spirit veins. This was because these cultivation methods also had spirit pulses in common. Therefore, Leng Shiqi needed more cultivation methods of rank 4 and above to open more spirit pulses. Unfortunately, the resources of the Shenyang sect and Du family only had some low-level cultivation methods and spiritual techniques. As for the high-level ones, they were probably hidden in the minds of Du Hachang, Li Shenyang and Li Feizhou. Other than cultivation methods and spiritual techniques, Leng Shiqi also needed to prepare for his breakthrough to the Spirit Aperture realm. Breaking through from the Spirit Pulse realm to the Spirit Aperture realm required 2 things at the same time. One was to condense the liquid spirit energy in the body into a spirit spiral, and the other was to open one of the 360 spirit apertures in the body. The best way to do this was to take the Spirit Spiral pill and the Awakening pill. However, these 2 pills were not only expensive, they were also priceless. Under normal circumstances, even if you had the money, you wouldn't be able to buy them. Coincidentally, among the resources of the Shenyang sect, there were 3 Spirit Spiral pills and 1 Awakening pill. Leng Shiqi naturally took them without hesitation. As for the rest, he chose some high-level body refining resources and materials. He waved his hand and used the mustard seed bracelet to store the 20% of the resources that belonged to him, filling the mustard seed bracelet to the brim. Fortunately, he changed to a higher-level mustard seed bracelet, otherwise he would have to use several mustard seed bags to store them. After everyone was done distributing the resources, Leng Shiqi returned to his room. The first thing he did was to sell 80% of the items in the mustard seed bracelet to the system. His system coins directly soared to 6,382 points. Leng Shiqi looked at the sky-high price of system coins and was moved. He hesitated for a moment, then decided to do 5 unlimited draws. He left over 1,000 system coins just in case he needed them. After all, the system store refreshed every day. If something he wanted appeared but he couldn't afford it, then he would lose out. Then he opened the lottery page and pressed the unlimited draw button. Chapter 339. Congratulations to the host for winning the beginner prize, Melting Iron Rod. Leng Shiqi's face darkened when he saw the notification. This was the first time he had won a beginner prize in the infinite draw. He had wasted 990 system coins. Leng Shiqi wiped his face as if he wanted to make it look whiter. He then clicked on the infinite draw again. Congratulations to the host for winning the intermediate prize, Xiaoyang Sword Qi. Leng Shiqi's face finally looked better. Although the intermediate prize was a loss, it was still better than the beginner prize. Moreover, this spiritual technique was quite useful. Xiaoyang Sword Qi was a level 4 spiritual technique. When the sword qi was released, it was as sharp as the rising sun. When the sword qi entered the body, it would burn the meridians. It was a very good spiritual technique. Leng Shiqi originally had channel unblocking sword qi and frost sword qi. However, as his cultivation level increased, the power of these two sword qi could no longer keep up. For example, when he went to kill Li Shenyang, even if he released hundreds of frost sword qi, it could not cause any fatal damage. Instead, Li Shenyang found a chance to escape. The Xiaoyang sword qi made up for it. However, it was still a loss. Leng Shiqi's face darkened. He had already won the beginner and intermediate prizes consecutively. It was equivalent to about 1,900 system coins going down the drain. At this time he already regretted it. It was not as good as 20 intermediate draws. However, the infinite draw was like this. There was no upper or lower limit. Of course, it was impossible to win every time. Since Leng Shiqi had already decided to do the infinite draw, he would not change his mind easily. Therefore he clicked on the infinite draw again. Congratulations to the host for winning the top prize, Yin-Yang Spirit Gathering Formation. Top prize. Leng Shiqi first wondered if he had seen wrongly. Then, with a flash of light, he saw a set of formation plates and formation flags appear in front of him. This was actually a mobile array formation. Leng Shiqi quickly read through the method of using the Yin and Yang Spirit Gathering Formation. Even though he had a strong will, he could not help but breathe heavily. The Yin-Yang Spirit Convergence Array, as its name implied, was a type of spirit convergence array. Its most powerful aspect was its domineering nature. The tyrannical plundering of all the heaven and earth spiritual qi in the vicinity could greatly increase the speed of cultivation. However, the cost of using the Yin and Yang Spirit Gathering Formation was also very high. In order to activate the Yin and Yang Spirit Gathering Array, the minimum requirement was 500 spirit stones. Moreover, 500 spirit stones were only enough to maintain the array for 2 hours. The more spirit stones he put in, the better the effect. How was this spirit gathering? This was clearly wealth gathering. However, he still had to try it out to see how effective it would be. Then he formed a spiritual seal with his hands, and the Yin-Yang Spirit Gathering Formation's formation disc and formation flags scattered in all directions and hid them underground. Immediately, with the Leng Shiqi as the center, an extremely complex array appeared in a radius of several feet. At the outermost periphery of the array, there were densely packed grooves. Leng Shiqi waved his hand and 500 spirit stones flew out and landed on top of the grooves. Then the Yin and Yang Spirit Gathering Formation suddenly bloomed with a dazzling purple-blue brilliance. Leng Shiqi only heard a muffled roar in his ears. Then, the array began to madly devour the heaven and earth spiritual qi in the vicinity like a black hole. Leng Shiqi felt that the heaven and earth spiritual qi in the surroundings had indeed become much denser and denser. In the blink of an eye, it had become 2 times, 3 times, 10 times. The heaven and earth spiritual qi in the room had become 10 times denser before it stopped increasing. Leng Shiqi secretly took a deep breath. He only needed to cultivate in this environment for 2 hours, and it was almost equivalent to a day and a night of cultivation. 500 spirit stones was definitely not a loss. Spirit stones could still provide a considerable amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi for spirit cultivators below the 4th level of the heaven realm. However, after reaching the 4th level of the heaven realm, the effect of ordinary spirit stones would be greatly reduced. Therefore, for Leng Shiqi, ordinary spirit stones were only used as currency. Now, he could use the Yin and Yang Spirit Gathering Formation to convert these useless spirit stones into real spiritual qi. It could be said that he had another way to quickly increase his cultivation. However, this method was really too expensive. Now, Leng Shiqi had plundered a lot of spirit stones from several families in the profound Yang sect, but there were not many in his hands. Especially when he was choosing cultivation resources previously, he did not take too many spirit stones. Now, he only had about 7,000 spirit stones in total. This number was considered a lot for a spirit cultivator in the late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. However, if he wanted to continue using the Yin and Yang Spirit Gathering Formation, it was far from enough. More than 7,000 spirit stones were only enough to last for a dozen hours. Leng Shiqi pondered. After the families in the other cities who smuggled iron were destroyed, he would have to take more spirit stones. Next, he cultivated in the Yin and Yang Spirit Gathering Array for 2 hours. He was fascinated by the feeling of his spiritual power increasing. After finishing his cultivation, Leng Shiqi put the yin and yang spirit gathering formation into the system space. It was really convenient to carry this thing around. After putting away the formation, he opened the lottery page again. He still reserved 2 unlimited lottery chances. When he opened the unlimited lottery again, a stream of light flashed and a card appeared in his hand. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advance prize. Card, Faceless Manipulator. The advance prize was not very profitable, but at least it was not a loss. Leng Shiqi looked at the introduction of the card again. Card, Faceless Manipulator. Choose a non-human unit and become its clone. When Leng Shiqi saw this description, his first reaction was that it was different from what he remembered. Then he immediately thought of a person. Or rather, a monster 9-leaf. According to the description of this card, he could use it to clone another 9-leaf and directly create a big monster. However, the clone 9-leaf would probably have no self-awareness like Purple Feather. Even so, it would still be a big monster. Just thinking about it made Leng Shiqi feel a little excited. He also began to miss 9-leaf a little. Leng Shiqi pondered for a moment. It was best to wait for 9-leaf's cultivation to recover before using this card. Only then would he be able to unleash its full potential, so he stored it in the system space. In the end, he struck while the iron was hot and clicked on the unlimited lottery. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, 9 scrolls of Buddhist scriptures. When Leng Shiqi saw the advanced prize for the first time, he was delighted. However, when he saw that the prize was 9 scrolls of Buddhist scriptures, he was a little stunned. And the system really gave him 9 scrolls of Buddhist scriptures. Mahaprajna, Mystic Dharma Lotus Sutra, Vidyalaya Sutra, Vajraprajna Parmitha Sutra, Amitba Sutra. These Buddhist scriptures were said to be 9 scrolls, but there was a big pile in front of him. Leng Shiqi flipped through the Buddhist scriptures one by one. After a while he could not help but feel puzzled. These were indeed genuine Buddhist scriptures, but they did not contain any cultivation methods or spiritual skills. They looked like very normal Buddhist scriptures. But why were these things classified as advanced prizes? Chapter 340. 2 days later, Leng Shiqi arrived at the West Desolation City. The West Desolation City was thousands of miles away from the West Desolation City. Even if he rode a spirit horse, it would take him about 4 days to arrive. But with the Fate ability, it was much easier for him to travel. In just 2 days he arrived at the West Desolation City. At this moment he was standing at the entrance of the West Desolation Province's Dark Thunder Guard headquarters. Leng Shiqi's purpose was to meet the inspector of the West Desolation Province's Dark Thunder Guard, Yu Ruifeng. When Yu Ruifeng heard that Leng Shiqi wanted to meet him, he welcomed him with a smile. "Ha, nephew Lu is here. Come in and have a seat." Leng Shiqi cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Lord Yu." Yu Ruifeng patted Leng Shiqi's shoulder affectionately and said, "There's no need to be so formal between us. Just call me Martial Uncle." This. Leng Shiqi showed a hesitant expression. Yu Ruifeng's face turned serious. "I've been through life and death situations with your master. If nephew Lu treats me like an outsider, you're not giving me face and also not giving your master face." Leng Shiqi immediately changed his tone and said, "Greetings, Martial Uncle." "That's right. Come, sit." Yu Ruifeng smiled very brightly, as if he was really meeting a junior of his own family. Leng Shiqi sat on Yu Ruifeng's left side and said, "Martial Uncle Yu, I'm actually here for the matter of the Profound Yang sect." Yu Ruifeng secretly thought that it was indeed so. His face showed a bit of admiration. "Nephew Lu, I already know that you found out that the Profound Yang sect colluded with the Zhulu country to smuggle refined iron. This is a great contribution. You were able to defeat the Profound Yang sect with Li Xianyang and Li Feizhou as a spirit pole stage practitioner. This is really impressive. Now, the most talked about name in the entire West Desolation province is you. You're really worthy of being Brother Chu's disciple. Nephew Lu will definitely be someone extraordinary in the future." Leng Shiqi said modestly, "It was just a fluke. Oh, I also specially prepared a small gift for Martial Uncle Yu. It's just that I'm new here and don't know what Martial Uncle likes. I hope Martial Uncle doesn't take offense." After saying that, he took out 8 mustard seed bags from his bosom. He lined up the 8 mustard seed bags and made a pleased gesture to Yu Ruifeng. A faint gleam flashed across Yu Ruifeng's eyes. He picked up a mustard seed bag and opened it. Even though he was an inspector, he could not help but reveal a greedy look. This mustard seed bag was filled to the brim with cultivation resources. And there were as many as 8 such mustard seed bags. Yu Ruifeng took a deep breath, then put down the mustard seed bag and asked, "Nephew, what do you mean by that?" Leng Shiqi smiled and said, "Martial nephew is just being filial to martial uncle. There is no other meaning. Since nephew has such good intentions as your martial uncle, if I were to refuse, wouldn't I be wasting my good intentions?" Although Yu Ruifeng said this, he immediately added, "However, it doesn't make sense for me to take martial nephew's things for free. How about this? Martial uncle can grant you 3 reasonable conditions, how about it?" Hearing this, Leng Shiqi thought to himself, "It's done." And it was much smoother than he had imagined. The things he took out were actually half of the profound Yang sect's resources. Originally, these were promised to 9 Leave, but 9 Leave had gone out on his own, and it was unknown when he would return. Rather than letting these resources collect dust, it was better to use them to solve many hidden troubles. As for the resources promised to 9 Leave, he also had a way to get them, but it would take some time. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Leng Shiqi did not believe that Yu Ruifeng was a person who did not do anything. Now that he had tested him, he found that he was indeed a very greedy person. However, the more greedy a person was, the easier it was to deal with them. As long as you could give them enough benefits, they would give you the corresponding benefits. Leng Shiqi cupped his hands and said, "These resources should be given to martial uncle. It just so happens that martial nephew has a few headaches recently, and I would like to ask martial uncle you for help." Yu Ruifeng smiled and said, "Nephew, there's no harm in asking." Leng Shiqi raised a finger and said, "Martial nephew wants to know, how big is the credit for destroying the profound Yang sect and breaking the Zhulu country's plan to smuggle iron?" The reason why he asked this was because he was afraid that Yu Ruifeng would divide his credit. From beginning to end, this matter was arranged by Leng Shiqi, but after all, he was only a supervisor. Above him, there was still the supervisor in charge of the North County, Duan Chun, and the supervisor in front of him, Yu Ruifeng. No matter how big Leng Shiqi's credit was, it had to be reported, so whether it was Duan Chun or Yu Ruifeng, they would definitely divide a part of his credit. So Leng Shiqi wanted to take the credit that should belong to him. All the credit. He always remembered why he joined the Dark Thunder Guard. He did not join to make money but to climb up. However, his qualifications were too shallow. If he wanted to climb up, he must have far more credit than others. So credit was the most important to Leng Shiqi. Yu Ruifeng's expression did not change, but his tone was not as enthusiastic as before. "Nephew's credit is indeed big, and it involves the Zhulu country. I have already reported this matter to the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters. How about this? I will add another report and put in a few good words for you." When Leng Shiqi heard this, he knew that Yu Ruifeng must have taken a part of his credit. Now that Yu Ruifeng agreed, Leng Shiqi felt that he was not too slow. Then he stretched out 2 fingers. "Uncle Master Yu, you know that Master is an itinerant cultivator after all. That's why I've always been shy about money. So I plan to do a small business near Lanqi City, but I don't know if this is in accordance with the rules of the Dark Thunder Guard." He was naturally talking about the matter of him openly supporting the smuggling of iron from several large families. Regarding this matter, he had also given a lot of benefits to Duan Chun to help him suppress it. However, Leng Shiqi was no longer satisfied with a mere Lanqi City. He needed someone of a higher level to be his backer. Speaking of this, Yu Ruifeng waved his hand and said casually, "As the saying goes, blocking one's path to wealth is like killing one's parents. Nephew, go ahead and do it. Nothing will happen with me around." Leng Shiqi did not expect Yu Ruifeng to agree so readily. He raised a 3rd finger and said, "Martial Uncle Yu, everyone knows that I destroyed the profound Yang sect, but I also lost a lot of my Dark Thunder Guard subordinates. Especially with the death of a Dark Thunder envoy, it can be said to be a heavy loss. Now Martial Nephew needs a lot of manpower. Of course, Martial Nephew also knows that the Dark Thunder Guard has always been in short supply, so why don't you let me recruit them myself?" Yu Ruifeng was an astute person. He immediately knew that Leng Shiqi wanted to cultivate his own team, but this was human nature. However, recruiting Dark Thunder Guards was not a small matter. He said in a deep voice, "I can let you recruit Dark Thunder Guards and Dark Thunder Envoys yourself, but there can't be too many people. I'll only give you 50 Dark Thunder Guards and 3 Dark Thunder Envoys." Leng Shiqi smiled in his heart. Yu Ruifeng had given him more spots than he had expected, so he agreed without hesitation. He had successfully completed his mission this time. Not only did he solve all future problems, but he also managed to climb up Yu Ruifeng's support. Just as he was about to leave, Yu Ruifeng said, "That's right, nephew, don't walk around casually after you go back. We might make a trip to Zhulu country in a while." Zhulu country? Leng Shiqi couldn't help but be puzzled. However, he immediately thought that this might have something to do with him destroying Zhulu country's transportation of refined iron. Yu Ruifeng said, "Zhulu country dared to transport refined iron in the imperial territory. The imperial court will definitely send people to investigate. As the inspector of the Western Baron province, I will definitely go. You are the biggest contributor to this matter. You also have conclusive evidence in your hands. When the time comes, you will come with me." Chapter 341. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but be stunned when he suddenly heard that he was going to Zhulu country. His thoughts turned quickly as doubts arose in his heart. It was true that the Dark Lightning Guards monitored the entire Thunderfire dynasty, but how could they control Zhulu country? He had indeed caught evidence of Zhulu country secretly transporting refined iron. Not only did he have a large amount of refined iron as evidence, but he also had Jill as a witness. It could be said that he had caught both the man and the goods. However, even if they were going to negotiate with Zhulu country, it shouldn't be the Dark Lightning Guard's turn. There were hundreds of court officials above and the border army outside. How could they let the Dark Lightning Guards go to Zhulu country to investigate? Yu Ruifeng seemed to have seen through Leng Shiqi's doubts. He said, "The reason why this matter fell on us is because the dynasty doesn't want to fall out with Zhulu country. After all, both sides are still allies on the surface. Although Zhulu country is only a small country and its territory isn't even as big as the West Desolate province, it is still a country in the end. According to the division of forces, it is still 30% stronger than the top forces. Now that the Thunderfire dynasty isn't stable internally, it's not good to have any more incidents. That's why this task was given to the Dark Lightning Guards. However, it will be some time before the Imperial Order is issued. You just have to wait in Lanqi City. I will send someone to inform you when the time comes." Leng Shiqi finally understood. This time, Zhulu country's smuggling of refined iron was a big matter. However, the Thunderfire dynasty didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so they just let them go through the motions. Of course, they would definitely be able to reap some benefits from this trip, so he was willing to make a trip. At the same time, Leng Shiqi also received a message from Yu Ruifeng's words. The Thunderfire dynasty wasn't peaceful internally. However, he didn't care too much. As the saying went, the emperor was far away. He was now at the border of the dynasty, so no matter how much trouble there was in the dynasty, it wouldn't affect the West Desolate province. Afterward, Leng Shiqi bade farewell to Yu Ruifeng and returned to Lanqi City as quickly as possible. This trip took a total of 4 days. When he returned, the other 4 families that were in charge of the smuggling of refined iron in the cities had also been eliminated. Carts after carts of cultivation resources were delivered into Dark Thunder Manor's courtyard one after another, causing everyone's eyes to turn red with envy. However, these resources were all sealed in the treasury and were not distributed to everyone. They were to be saved up for 9 leave. When Leng Shiqi returned, Qiu Cheng and Xiao Qian came looking for him with tired faces. Qiu Cheng didn't care about etiquette. He drank a large pot of tea and said, "Sir, you're back. We've been busy these past few days." They destroyed the Shenyang sect and several families. Although these people deserved it, the Dark Thunder Guards also had to go through a lot of procedures. These things had been done by Qiu Cheng all the time. These days he almost didn't sleep. Xiao Qian, on the other hand, was responsible for sealing up resources, handing over missions, and managing the Dark Lightning Guards. They did have a lot of power in their hands, but they were exhausted. Leng Shiqi also knew that there were too few Dark Lightning envoys in his Dark Lightning Manor. Only Qiu Cheng and Xiao Qian were enough to keep him busy. Thus he said, "Don't worry. I've already gotten the permission of the inspector. I can recruit 50 Dark Lightning Guards and 3 Dark Lightning envoys." Qiu Cheng and Xiao Qian were both happy and sad at the same time. They were happy that there were people to share some of the responsibility and pressure, but at the same time, they also had to share some of the power. Leng Shiqi said meaningfully, "You're both veterans of Dark Thunder Manor and Mistchi City. You'll have to put in more effort in the future." These words were to reassure them. Even if there were new Dark Lightning envoys in the future, the 2 of them would still be the most important. Xiao Qian and Xiao Qian were also slightly relieved. "You 2 have been very busy recently. I'll do the recruitment myself." Leng Shiqi directly took the responsibility for this matter, so the two of them naturally had nothing to say. From the next day onwards, Dark Thunder Manor began recruiting Dark Lightning Guards and Dark Lightning Envoys. This news attracted a lot of attention. It wasn't because of anything else. Dark Thunder Manor had just recruited 30 Dark Lightning Guards a while ago. Now they were recruiting again? Was the Dark Lightning Guard so short of people? However, this was the Dark Lightning Guard. Being able to enter the Dark Lightning Guard was equivalent to having an iron rice bowl, so it still attracted a lot of people. In particular, Leng Shiqi was in the limelight recently. Many young elites came because of his reputation. The originally deserted streets of Dark Thunder Manor became much more lively. Leng Shiqi also became busy. Being personally recruited by him as a supervisor, it was naturally very strict. 80% of the people were rejected by him. Even so, there were still a lot of people who flocked to him. In 4 to 5 days he recruited 50 Dark Lightning Guards in the Spirit Transformation Realm and 3 Dark Lightning Envoys in the Spirit Pulse Realm. In fact, these people were all assassins from the Bloodcloth Pavilion. Now, Leng Shiqi had 120 Dark Lightning Guards under him. Most of them were from the Bloodcloth Pavilion. 3 of the 5 Dark Lightning Envoys were also Bloodcloth assassins from the Bloodcloth Pavilion. It could be said that Dark Thunder Manor in Mishchi City was completely under his control. On this day, Leng Shiqi called Qiu Cheng and Xiao Qian over. When they came in, they saw that there were already 3 Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators sitting there. They knew that these 3 people were the 3 new Dark Lightning Envoys. Sit, these 3 are the new Dark Lightning Envoys. Leng Shiqi raised his hand and said, "This is old Mr. Guan Feihong. He's in the late stage of the Spirit Pulse Realm." The old man sitting beside Leng Shiqi stood up and cupped his hands. He had a kind smile on his face. He looked gentle and amiable, giving people a good impression. This old man is Guan Feihong. I'm already so old, but I'm still able to receive Lord Lu's favor and become a Dark Lightning Envoy. In the future, I'll have to ask the 2 of you to take care of me. When Xiao Qian and Qiu Cheng heard Leng Shiqi say that this person was in the late stage of the Spirit Pulse Realm, their hearts tightened. However, seeing Guan Feihong like this, they thought that he was easy to get along with, so they said a few polite words. Actually, Guan Feihong had another name. Black-striped blood-clothed assassin, heart soul. Seeing through people's hearts, hooking their souls. Although he was old and could no longer use his full strength, Leng Shiqi had specially picked him because he liked his scheming and intelligence. Leng Shiqi thought that his shrewdness was not bad, but it would be better if he had a think tank by his side to give him advice. Moreover, he often went into closed-door cultivation. It was important to have someone outside who could take care of things. Following this, Leng Shiqi pointed at an ordinary-looking middle-aged man. He was the kind that could not be found in a crowd. This person stood up and smiled. "This one is Chen Ming. I'm in the middle stage of the Spirit Pulse Realm. This is my first time here, please forgive me." Chen Ming was actually Thousand Face. Thousand Face's ability was too useful. Leng Shiqi had him change his identity and stay by his side. As for the last person, he was wearing tight black clothes. He hugged a thin sword and had a cold expression. He only said 3 words coldly, "Qin Jianchen." Qin Jianchen's cold attitude made the others a bit unhappy, especially Qiu Cheng, who was already frowning. He was actually a famous black-striped blood-clothed assassin in the Western Desolate Province, Ghost Sword. He had once assassinated a Spirit Aperture Realm expert with his late-stage Spirit Pulse Realm cultivation. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.